Chapter 757. However, the two of them felt weak. They were completely exhausted. What the hell? Are the son-in-law's legs made of oil? It doesn't make sense. Don't ask me, I don't know either. If he didn't have something special, how could he be the son-in-law? That's right. As Chen Guang traversed through the forest, he called out to Liuli in his heart. But it was a pity that after he squeezed her dry on the plain, she had really given up this time. There was no one in Yincheng at all. Lu Ming? Where's Sister Liuli? The deer cry fruit shook its big fruit. Guess my ass. Be serious, it's urgent and crucial. Lu Ming was unhappy. Boy, be more respectful to me. I'm a god emperor, at the same level as your sister Liuli. Your disparity in treatment makes me very unhappy, okay? Besides, you should give up. This time Sister Liuli really can't help you. She's had enough of you. Do you see the pile of leaves on top of my head? She wanted me to put her inside so that you wouldn't see her, and your heart wouldn't be disturbed, okay? I know what you're anxious about. Anyway, you're not the one who wants to die. Sister Liuli and I don't care, okay? As if to emphasize her tone, she actually learned Mandarin and English on the spot. Don't be like this. That's not good, right? There's nothing bad about it. Go away, you greedy little boy, don't bother me. Lu Ming said, and then there was no more movement. Chen Guang moved a little closer, found the depression that he had touched last time, and touched it. Can I have some more Shenlu oil? Bang! No, you're good. Chen Guang gave the Lu Ming fruit this leaf directly out of Yincheng. Alas, he really couldn't count on them. Gritting his teeth, Chen Guang could only continue charging forth. In any case, he would deal with whatever came his way after reaching his destination. In front of him was a long iron chain bridge stretching from the bottom to the top. The feeling of uneasiness in his heart became more and more intense, and his calves turned faster and faster. Wen, don't panic. I'm coming. I'll save you. 5 minutes later, he finally stood under a tall memorial arch, panting. Looking up, he saw 3 bold and forceful characters that looked like they had been chiseled by a knife. Wenzonga Pavilion. This was the Wen family's headquarters. The headquarters was built in the mountains, on the side of a cliff, and there was a natural magnetic barrier. In addition, it was shrouded in fog all year round, and the outside was filled with ferocious beasts, wolves, and venomous snakes. It was no wonder that no one could find it. Chen Guang raised his head and looked inside. He seemed to sense that Wen was about 500 meters away from him. He took large strides, passed through the memorial arch, and stepped onto the steps. Suddenly, his entire body shook. It was just a step away, but he was actually so cold that his entire body shivered. This Wenzonga Pavilion was truly strange. It was as if there was a natural invisible barrier. Just one step would cause the temperature to rise by at least 5 degrees. However, he didn't have much time to be puzzled, because as he took this step, many people rushed out from the forest beside him. Who? To dare barge into the Wen family at night, you're courting death. Ah. Son-in-law. Quick, report to the elders. Son-in-law is here. Son-in-law, quick. Follow us. Son-in-law, you're too slow. We'll carry you. Chen Guang was facing the sky. 2 Pai Jing experts lifted him by his legs and his back. They lifted him above his head and carried him forward. A chilly wind blew from the top of his head. Chen Guang, who had a blank expression on his face, had a vague feeling. He remembered the ancient palace dramas he had watched. When the imperial concubines were about to be favored by the emperor, they would be washed white, then wrapped in wool satin, and carried by eunuchs across half the palace to the emperor's bedchamber. You guys, son-in-law, don't speak. Conserve energy. Wait. What's with conserve energy? I can't wait. 3rd aunt and 7th aunt are here. I'll leave him to you. In the next moment, two more people carried Qin Guang. They were the two older aunties, but their strength was also at the peak of Pai Jing. The poor Master Guang didn't have any strength to resist at all. Wait. Don't take off my clothes. I can't wait. At least leave me with my bag. The things in it are very important to me. 10 seconds later, Qin Guang awkwardly wrapped the bag around his waist to cover his embarrassment. Oh no, I'm naked. I'm not wearing anything. No, I still have a bag to cover me a little. Could it be that Wenwen didn't simply go berserk? Qin Guang recalled a scene. Once he got close to Wenwen, she would clamp her legs together and lose control. It was clearly a sign that she had lost control of her emotions. Could it be that I'm personally piloting an armed helicopter to deliver a gun from 1,000 miles away? Oh my. Why am I so professional? I'm so high-end. And third aunt, can you close my legs a little more? A little shameful. Although these two aunties looked very old, their walking speed was no joke. When the cold wind blew, their little buttocks felt cold. However, what was even more impressive was the way they grabbed onto Qin Guang's clothes. They didn't put him down at all. Instead, they held him up high and pulled on his clothes with their palms. The high-quality, high-end goods, that were worth hundreds of dollars each, were no different from a layer of paper in the hands of these two experts at the peak of Pai Jing. With a crack, they tore his clothes into pieces. The two of them didn't raise their heads throughout the whole process, nor did they look at Qin Guang. Other than grabbing his legs and supporting his back, they didn't touch any other parts of Qin Guang's body. They were as sharp as a butcher dismembering an ox. The further he went, the closer he got to Wenwen. Qin Guang felt a strong sense of calling from Wenwen. He started to feel lost. He didn't know whether he was excited or the heavenly Holy Grail. No, to be more precise, he was brought along by the heavenly Holy Grail to the point where he couldn't control himself. Son-in-law, if we go any further, we won't be able to get close. You'll have to rely on yourself from now on. You must save Lord Sect Leader. Seventh aunt, who was holding onto Qin Guang's back, suddenly said. Third aunt, who was behind him, also said, Son-in-law, please bear with it. We'll throw you over now. It's all up to you. Qin Guang bent his head back slightly. From afar, he saw Wenwen sitting cross-legged behind the rubble formed by the collapsed wall. Unfortunately, the distance was too far and the lighting was too poor. He could only vaguely see her figure. The terrain in front seemed to be lower. The Wen clan's most secretive sect leader's residence was built at the lowest point of the Wenzonga Pavilion by the cliff. To be honest, there's still 100 meters from here. You can consider putting me down and letting me walk over on my own. It'll be safer this way. His whole body flew in the air, spinning and flying forward like a cannonball. Qin Guang actually wanted to scold them, but these two were his elders. He really couldn't bring himself to scold them. They must have a screw loose in their brains. Can't they just let me walk on my own? Although you'll need to throw me faster, I'm already here. Is there a need to fight for such a little bit of time? There's no need, right? Forget it. I'm a man. I'm already flying in the air anyway. This isn't a problem for me. This parabola looked a little scary, but with the time spent in the air, with the old man's balance, he would be able to adjust his posture. When the time came, his feet would land steadily. With the strength of Aeolus legs and an appropriate lazy donkey roll multiplied by 3.5, he would be able to complete a 3.5-turn dog crawling landing. He was getting closer and closer to the ground. He was also getting closer and closer to Wenwen, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground. Come on. It's time to show the strongest floor exercise that has been lost in the pugilistic world for a long time. Qin Guang's gaze focused and his muscles tightened. He was unprecedentedly nervous. Pull your heads back. Squat down. Everyone squat down. All disciples of the Wen family, listen up. Anyone who dares to peep on the Lord and the son-in-law will be executed immediately. If you don't want to live, stretch out your neck. Otherwise, you'll squat down obediently for me. Second great uncle, please squat down too. The Lord is now in the one's own realm. She has an extraordinary temperament. If she wants to kill you, we won't be able to protect you. On the other side, at least 300 meters away, dozens of Wen family women and female elders were patrolling around vigilantly. Other than the stubborn second great uncle, no one dared to stretch out their necks. However, after being warned once, the second great uncle immediately shrank his neck back. Although it was a pitch-black night and they were 300 meters away, even a Pi gene expert wouldn't be able to see anything. However, this was a serious matter. The thousands of people in the Wen Zone pavilion were all on standby. No one dared to be careless. Just as one of the old women with a staff said, those with bad intentions would be executed immediately. Chen Guang didn't know what was happening behind him. He was still trying his best to adjust his posture in the air. After a great deal of effort, he finally put his legs in front of him. Although the wind blowing from his empty legs was exceptionally cold, as long as his feet touched the ground first, what did the cold wind matter? Suddenly, a scream came from the ground below. Chen Guang. It was Wenwen's voice. But her tone was extremely strange. It was sharp, ear-piercing, and carried a strong sense of hysteria. It was completely different from the confident, calm, and extremely manly Miss Wen in Chen Guang's memory. Chen Guang looked over again. Where was she? Wasn't she there just now? Where did she run off to? Don't run. Catch me. What nonsense about turning 3.5 times on the ground was complete nonsense. If I fall like this, I'll be meat paste, okay? Just as he was thinking about this, his whole body suddenly trembled. A warm embrace. Wait, okay, I'm a real man. Wenwen's embrace is not warm at all. It's just that my landing posture is not right, and I need a little help from her. In short, he was successfully caught by Wenwen in the air. Obviously, third ant and seventh ant threw him over like a discus because they were sure that Wenwen would catch him. Being carried by Wenwen in the air, Chen Guang turned his head and widened his eyes. He saw Wenwen's blushing face. Even if it was night time, her face was flickering with a pink radiance. At such a close distance, Chen Guang could see her face clearly. Her eyes were very blurred, as if she wanted to eat someone. Are you okay? Wenwen didn't speak. Instead, she suddenly twisted his body, lifted her legs, and straddled him like a horse. Wait, we're still in the air. We're still landing. There's still about 10 meters below us. It was useless. It was useless no matter what he said. Under the impact of the 7 stars, Wenwen, who had already endured to the extreme and was about to self-destruct in the next moment, had completely lost her mind. Just like Harry Potter riding on the magic broom, she pressed her palm on the magic broom's lower abdomen and injected her inner strength. The magic broom was like a withered tree coming back to life, and a branch emerged from the middle. The sect master's eyes flashed with red light. She spread her legs and released her inner strength. The martial arts pants under her robe were torn apart, and then she rode on the magic broom fiercely. At this moment, there was only one thought in old Master Guang's mind. The old man was so far away, there was no one else. The old man was pushed down again, in the air, he was going to fall. Oh my God. Chapter 758. Chen Guang sensed the rapidly descending height and knew that the ground behind him was getting closer and closer without looking back. Sigh, I'm pushed back every day, and I can't stop or block it. My posture is getting more and more advanced, and my methods are getting wilder and wilder. Don't tell me I'm going to outer space next time. It's like this every time. To be honest, it's actually quite the feeling. Can't I really be normal for once? The old man is a 7-foot man and a reputable figure, after all. It's actually quite awkward for him to be like this all the time. Sigh, forget it. After all, I'm handsome, and I can't stop my charm. I'm always pushed back. It's all my fault. It's the world's fault. But there's a problem. We're about to land soon. If we keep hitting the ground like this, won't we die? Wen, hurry up and wake up. Although my pile driver is cheering, I'm very flustered. However, this docking position was undoubtedly unprecedented. As a veteran pilot, Lord Guang had given the duo a new name for their current position, refueling in the air technique. That's right, the old man is a cute air refueling machine. That was why human potential was so terrifying, and the speed of thinking was so fast. Falling from a height of more than 10 meters, in just a few seconds, his mind was experiencing a different feeling, and at the same time, he was thinking of so many random thoughts. He really can't be blamed for not being focused. No matter who it was, they probably wouldn't be able to calm down if they encountered such a unique situation. All of this took a long time to describe, but it actually only took 2 to 3 seconds from the magic broom sprouting to the two of them landing on the ground. However, Chen Guang's back did not immediately slam into the ground. In that instant when he landed on the ground, Wen seemed to have regained some of her rationality. She suddenly clamped her legs together, bent her knees, and supported Chen Guang's waist with her legs. She arched her body slightly and reached out with both hands to grab onto Chen Guang's shoulders. Then again, if Chen Guang only managed to support himself in this manner, he would only end up with his neck broken from the impact of the fall. Although he had trained many parts of his body far beyond the limits of a normal person, he had never trained his waist, abdomen, and neck. His spine was only slightly stronger than a normal person's, so it was impossible for him to withstand the impact when he landed on the ground. But at this point, he couldn't break free from Wen's control. He could only focus all his strength on his neck and waist, praying that he could withstand the impact. His abdomen and head were still falling under the violent pulling force, but his waist and shoulders, which were stuck by Wen, were stabilized. The strong force hit him, making him think that his body was going to be torn apart. I didn't expect that after I became the first man to have sex in freefall, I would immediately become the first man to die in freefall. I became number 1 in 2 worlds at once, how embarrassing. That being said, he really didn't expect that he hadn't seen Wen for a long time. The last time he did something with her, he was unconscious and didn't know what happened. When he asked her afterward, she wouldn't admit it even if he beat her to death. Now you can't deny it, right? If I can live, let's see if you still dare to be arrogant in front of me in the future. Dying under a peony flower, becoming a ghost is also a romantic, my life is worth it. His neck was getting longer and longer, and his spine seemed to be really about to break. Okay, actually I don't really want to die. I say, Wen, quickly wake up, or else I'm really going to explode. His prayer didn't work. Wen bent down and squatted in a very non-standard posture. Her feet were firmly planted on the ground, and she was as stable as Mount Tai, but her mouth was letting out a desperate moan. At other times, this moan would definitely make Chen Guang blush and his heart beat faster, but now, I'm done for, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. She didn't show any signs of waking up at all, completely immersed in it. Wake up a little and give me a way to live. I'm not a one-time consumable, can I continue to develop? Forget it, I'm finished, I admit defeat. When a person is about to die, his brain also works fast. From the moment Wen's feet were planted on the ground, Chen Guang erupted with the power of lightning, and like a machine gun, he crazily complained in his heart. In just a few tenths of a second, his complaints actually added up to almost a 20-minute episode of Kill Memories. In the distance, the old woman with a cane who was quietly sizing up this side kept staring at them. Wen was wearing a martial arts robe, so there was no risk of her being exposed. Even if the old woman knew that these two people had successfully connected, she still couldn't see anything clearly. In the old woman's eyes, from the moment Wen caught Chen Guang, turned over and got on the horse, and then fell to the ground like a meteorite, it happened in an instant. There was a loud noise, smoke and dust everywhere, and gravel cracked and scattered in all directions. When the smoke and dust slowly dissipated, both Wenwen and Qinguang had disappeared into thin air, leaving only a big pit. On the other side, Qinguang, who originally thought that he would definitely be torn apart, suddenly felt that the force pulling him down was lighter, and the two people who had clearly fallen to the ground continued to fall. No way. So fierce? The ground cracked? Did it have to be so earth-shaking? Wasn't this power a little too fierce? No. The bottom of the ground was originally empty. Just as he thought, after Wenwen's feet landed on the ground, it was unknown if it was because the force of the fall was too heavy, or if Wenwen had deliberately released her inner force through her feet, but cracks appeared on the ground where her feet were standing like a spider web, spreading out in all directions. Then, the cracks suddenly exploded, and the two of them fell down at the same time. The force pulling Qinguang's body immediately loosened. I don't have to die, I really don't have to die this time. It was truly a glimmer of hope at the darkest hour. Qinguang's body slowed down and he managed to hold on. It was really dangerous just now. If this had continued for a few tenths of a second, his spine would have been torn apart and his neck would have been completely broken. No matter what was down there, it could not possibly be a mountain of blades or a sea of flames, right? Besides, there was Wenwen. He would not die. Qinguang, who had escaped death, was overjoyed. As he fell, he looked at the gravel flying past his head. He did not know if the gravel was flying upwards or if his falling speed was faster. Forget it, that was not important. What was important was that the old man was now under the peony flower, he did not have to die. At that moment, he finally had the mood to carefully analyze the inner force expert who had been tempered 1,000 times. Perhaps she was also the strongest heroine in the entire pugilistic world. That tender, cough cough. In short, it was perfect. There was no excess fat, impeccable, tight, very good wrapping, cough cough. To sum it up in one word, awesome. In short, to be able to have something happen between him and Wenwen in a sober state was really too happy. The so-called winner in life was just like that. You can't lie to me anymore. Don't even think about saying that there is no relationship between us. I will let you have a taste of the power of the old man pile driver. Wahahaha. Eat my piercing cloud spear. Qinguang used a little bit of strength and tried to push his waist up a little bit. His whole body was independent from top to bottom. When his waist went up, his head unconsciously leaned back a little. So sometimes people really should not be too complacent. The phrase, extreme joy turns to sorrow, was really not a joke. If he had obediently bent his neck and straightened it, perhaps nothing would have happened. But when he bent his neck back, it immediately exploded. Bang! The back of his head was hit by a rock the size of a watermelon. His head buzzed as if someone had hit it with a hammer. So dizzy. Am I going to faint just like this? No. Persevere. Persevere is victory. Qinguang's eyes were wide open. He clenched his teeth tightly and clenched his fists tightly. I can't faint, I absolutely can't faint. After a few seconds, the dizziness finally subsided. Qinguang let out a long breath. He withstood it. Thank God. Bang. Again. Bang bang bang. My Miss One, can you help me block some stones? You don't have the mood like this. Finally, his head tilted and he directly fainted. He didn't even know whether he had changed into a Buddha's head or not. With a plop, the two of them fell into a pool of water. This was the secret of the Wen family. The pool hidden under the patriarch's residence was called the Hooking Jade Pool. There was a spring hidden in it. Not only was it as warm as summer all year round, but the spring water in the Hooking Jade Pool was also full of elements, which could help martial artists cultivate their breath. Of course, in the past, it was said to be a spiritual spring, which contains spiritual energy. However, as early as 10 years ago, the Wen family had secretly taken the water from the Hooking Jade Pool for testing. It was confirmed that this was a rare mineral water that was rich in mineral elements. It was non-toxic and harmless, and was beneficial to the human body. There was no such thing as an incredible spiritual energy. After falling into the water, Wen still hadn't recovered her senses. She could only rely on her instincts to float on the water with Chen Guang. Not only that, she used her inner strength to completely shatter the martial attire she was wearing. Chen Guang's bag was also violently torn off by her and thrown to the side of the pool. From then on, the two naked people tangled with each other in the underground pond. Not only did they not separate, they became even tighter and tighter. Normally, Chen Guang's combat power index was extremely terrifying. He was the most powerful pile driver in history, which made people fear him. After fainting, his senses were greatly weakened. With the nourishment of the hooking jade pool, his combat power increased even more. If Wen was still conscious, she would definitely remember the fear of being dominated. But now, she only had her instincts and was fearless. The rocks near the hooking jade pool glowed faintly with a faint green fluorescence, illuminating the pool. The sound of water splashing could be heard everywhere. The huge hooking jade pool seemed to be boiling. It was obvious how fierce the fight between the two was. The Wen family watched from afar. Only the old woman with a cane and a few other women dared to gather their courage and go a little closer. They could vaguely hear the sound of water that didn't stop. They finally felt at ease. About half an hour later, Chen Guang slowly woke up. After organizing his thoughts briefly, he understood his current situation. He made up his mind and simply turned the tables. He didn't know the principle behind Wen's chi deviation, but his current situation reminded him of a movie he had seen. Yes, it was the scene in Stephen Chow's version of The Deer in the Cauldron, when Wei Xiaobao and the Holy Maiden of the Divine Dragon Order fought to the end. In short, settle the chi deviation, and that was it. Come on, let's fight to our heart's content. Chapter 759. Eat my charge drill. Shameless, how dare you use your inner force to suck me, I won't let you succeed. The pile driver will never be a slave. So strong. So strong suction. Is this the legendary Rasengan? It doesn't matter, I'm serious, I'm going to increase the gear. Second gear pile driver. Don't pinch so hard, you cheater. My stomach hurts. Third gear pile driver will teach you how to be a man. The battle between the two became more and more intense. It was dark, the sun and the moon lost their light. Well, it was night time now. Time flew, and another hour or so had passed. Unknowingly, the 7 stars in Wen's body that were originally crazily agitated slowly calmed down. The impact it brought also gradually subsided. After all, the charming scene that appeared in her mind before had now become a more intuitive reality. She was busy with the real battle. How could she have the time to care about what was in her mind? Aside from that, when Chen Guang and Wen got close to each other, the 7 stars of the mysterious Big Dipper became more active at the start. But as time passed, the power of the transcendent Holy Grail that bound Chen Guang's body slowly spread out, enveloping Wen as well. The 7 stars of the mysterious Big Dipper seemed to have met its natural enemy and gradually calmed down. The feeling of her mind being devoured gradually dissipated from Wen's mind. She gradually woke up. However, Chen Guang had no idea about it. He was still gritting his teeth as he struggled and muttered. Hold on. I must hold on. I won't wake up. The tower won't fall. I won't retreat. Oh ma, my waist is a little sore. Why is it not over yet? Why, I can't accept this, it's an unfair victory. I have a body full of martial arts, but my waist is so tired. That's right, although he had the strongest pile driver in history, his waist was still sloppy. He could only blame himself for working too hard. He wanted Wen to wake up quickly. He had to take the initiative to attack. His waist was really tired. In the end, after attacking for a full hour and a half, the enemy's firepower was still overwhelming. Although our vanguard general was also fierce, the logistics troops were going on strike. Now that he was talking about this, it wasn't because he wanted to do something, but because he was cheering himself on. But even so, he still persevered and did not give up until the very last moment. Now that she is suffering from chi deviation and is in a dangerous situation, how can I not give my all until my last breath? This was the responsibility of a man. To save the common people as his own responsibility, he would not give up until he saw the Yellow River, and he would not shed a tear until he reached the Yellow Springs. The old man was that strong. No, let me take a breather first. I'll lie down and don't move. Let her fend for herself. If this goes on, my kidney is going to break. At this time, Chen Guang did not notice that the misty expression on Wenwen's face was gradually fading, and the faint pink glow on her face was also gradually dimming. Half of her body floated in the hooked jade pool. Although she wasn't wearing anything, she felt warm and didn't feel cold at all. Wenwen slowly opened her eyes and looked at Chen Guang in front of her. In an instant, she understood what kind of situation the two of them were in. If it was any other woman, she would probably exclaim, scream, and be hysterical. At the very least, she would cover her mouth and let out a cry, then quickly push him away. But Wenwen didn't do that. She used about 20 seconds to carefully recall what had happened today. That's right, around 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening, she, who was arranging the documents, suddenly felt uncomfortable. Then, she lost control of the 7 stars in her abdomen, and after that, her memory was only left with intermittent fragments of lucidity. The speed at which she returned to the chaos was too fast, and the time when she was awake was too short. She only knew that the 7 stars in her dantian, which had benefited her greatly, had completely lost control. Then, she vaguely remembered that when Chen Guang was close to her, he seemed to have a similar feeling. But this time, he was clearly not by her side. Wenwen vaguely remembered that when she seemed to be at her wit's end, she seemed to have mentioned the name Chen Guang to the other people in the family. But after that, how many times she said it, and how long she waited, she had no memory at all. She only remembered that at a certain point in time, she seemed to have completely lost all her memories and thinking ability. Her dantian was boiling like a volcano, and it was difficult to control. What she did next, she had almost no memory. She vaguely remembered that she caught Chen Guang in the air, and then the two of them began to refuel in the air. Although she clearly knew that this had happened just now, in her memory, it was as far back as 10 years ago. It could be seen how chaotic her mind was just now, to produce this sense of dislocation in time. Then the question is, what should I do now? Perhaps it was driven by instinct, or maybe it was the pull of inertia. Although Wenwen had already woken up, she did not stop taking the initiative to attack. But when she thought of what to do, she finally stopped. Chen Guang sensed that the situation was not right, and opened his eyes to look at her. With the light from the fluorescent stone, he saw that she was also staring straight at him with a pair of beautiful eyes. Her face was no longer as perplexed as before, but instead revealed a trace of distress and entanglement. "You're awake?" Chen Guang was overjoyed, and asked. "No. You've already spoken, and you still say that you're not awake." Chen Guang deliberately twisted his waist left and right, He. I heard that there's nothing going on between us. He. Wenwen felt strange. The power of this guy's pile driver was really terrifying. The blush on her face that had not dissipated became even more intense, and her pretty face was even hotter, as if it was more dizzy than when she lost her mind earlier. Perhaps it was due to the internal energy being stimulated. Her whole body began to faintly emit a pink shimmer. Under the illumination of the green fluorescent stone, her whole body was suffused with a purple glow. Don't move. Aren't you acting shamelessly? There's really nothing going on between us. This is an illusion. Yes, you've been hypnotized by me using my internal energy, so what you're seeing, hearing, and feeling now, are all illusions. Even if she was a goddess, she would also act shamelessly. It wasn't that Wenwen didn't have the ability to lie with her eyes open, it was just that she didn't bother to use it in the past. At this moment, in this special situation, she could also act shamelessly. Chen Guang's eyes widened. The old man had traveled in the pugilistic world for hundreds of years, and he had seen many shameless people, but he had never seen someone as shameless as you. Hallucination? Hallucination, my ass. In fact, Wen herself also felt that her words were quite unconvincing, but she really didn't know how to face the current situation. She was more worried about the situation inside her dantian. Although that strange 7 stars no longer randomly attacked and returned to its previous position, it was a little different from the normal situation. She didn't know if it was an illusion, but Wen actually felt that the 7 stars in her dantian were slightly trembling, and the frequency was the same as a human's heartbeat. She placed her hand on Chen Guang's chest and was even more surprised to find that the frequency of the 7 stars trembling was actually the same as Chen Guang's heartbeat. Why is this? It's so strange. Could it be that my internal energy has some kind of mysterious connection with him? I say, can we stop just touching? Why don't you move? It's really not that I'm slacking off, but you don't know how hard I tried to wake you up just now. My waist almost broke. Alright, don't be in a daze. The rice has already been cooked. Please be a little more conscious, understand my hard work, and take the initiative. Thank you. Chen Guang's heart was uncomfortable. He originally thought that he could only save her after she ascended to the sky, and at that time, he should be in position. Now, you woke up early, but I'm still hanging in the air. It's really worse than death. Unexpectedly, Wen suddenly pulled away and completely separated from Chen Guang. If there was a sound when a heart broke, Chen Guang's ears would definitely be ringing. Hey! This isn't appropriate. But his fist is bigger, so he has the final say. Forget it, let me die here. Living is really not fun at all. However, Wen ignored his tricks and simply lifted Chen Guang. With a little strength, her whole body floated up from under the water. Then, she stepped on the water surface and quickly pulled him to the shore of the hooked jade pool. After putting Wen down, Chen Guang sat on the ground again with his back aching and his whole body weak. He simply lay down flat on his back. Wen secretly glanced at the space between his legs and blushed again. However, she immediately reacted. Alright, don't blush. Both of them were not wearing it. Just now, it was a negative distance situation. You take a good rest first. I have to meditate and look inside. Although practicing martial arts can constantly increase my strength, it is also full of danger. The situation we encountered today is unprecedented. I have to be vigilant. Wen saw that his face was full of disappointment. She found it funny and felt guilty at the same time, so she explained. Alright. I know you are a martial arts expert. Maybe one day when you are strong enough, you can break through the void like Lang Fanyun and evil master Pang Ban. Stop talking nonsense. I'm meditating. Oh right, you are an illusion now. Chen Guang rolled his eyes. Yes, I know. This is really a night of wind and rain, but the spring dream is gone without a trace. My little heart really hurts from time to time. Alright. Wait for me to finish my work. At most, we will talk about it. Wen was really soft-hearted and gave Chen Guang another sweet taste. Actually, Chen Guang's waist was a little tired. Although it did not break when he fell from the sky, there were some hidden injuries. After entering the water, he did not think about recuperating. He only wanted to fight 300 rounds with Miss Wen and kill her Qigong deviation. In the end, both of them were in good condition. Before he could kill the horse, his waist was about to break. It was time for a rest. But on the other side, Wen soon realized that something was wrong. Just now when the two of them separated, the 7 stars in her dantian that had settled down suddenly showed signs of going out of control. She thought it was a coincidence. But now, not only did this meditation not help, the 7 stars that were acting strangely came back to life and became more and more intense. Not only that, the inner strength was also rushing everywhere in her body like a raging river. After a while, her breathing quickened again. I say, are we still dreaming? Is this still an illusion? Why don't you try to hypnotize me again? Why don't you try to deny it? Looking at Miss Wen, who ran over again, Chen Guang had a smug smile on his face. There was no other way. Her charm was just so great. See, you can't resist it at all. Your waist is not good. Don't move. I'll move. This time, both of them were awake. Suppressed moans reverberated above the jade hook pond. The 7 stars that were acting strangely finally settled down again. As the impact in the depths of Miss Wen's mind grew higher and higher, it got closer and closer. Finally, she almost couldn't suppress her voice anymore and almost screamed. As expected of the powerful sect leader Wen. She actually clenched her fists and burst forth with inner strength, forcefully using inner strength to replace the howl that almost tore her throat. The terrifying inner strength swept over the hooked jade pond, bringing with it a violent wave. The storm rose again, and even the nearby hanging or standing fluorescent stones that were like stalactites were smashed apart. A stalactite as thick as a thigh fell vertically above the two of them. In a low moan, Chen Guang, who was at the peak of his happiness, saw the stalactite behind Wen in a daze. He opened his mouth and was about to cry out in surprise. But 2 streams of energy that could be seen with the naked eye surged out from her shoulders. They spiraled upwards and actually smashed the stone pillar into powder on the spot. Specks of green fluorescence instantly filled the sky, causing the underground karst cave where the jade hook pool was located to instantly brighten up. It was a beautiful sight. Wen let out a long sigh of relief in her heart. That strange 7 stars had finally disappeared. That's not right. Strictly speaking, it hadn't disappeared. Instead, during the process of the 2 fighting, just now, the 7 stars had continuously gathered together. Finally, when she ascended to the clouds, the 7 stars had merged into one. Chapter 760. Chen Guang laid on the side and really didn't want to say a single word. Although he basically laid flat on the floor and pretended to be dead for the latter half of the battle, but just by watching her sit there and move up and down. Cough cough, anyway, this matter can't be recalled too much, it can only be understood and not explained. Just watching was already tiring enough, not to mention that Sovereign didn't control his strength well at times. Anyway, his waist was still quite sore and his little butt was also bruised from hitting the rocks on the shore of the Jade Hook Pond. It's not that my army isn't strong enough, it's all because the enemy is too valiant. Luckily the old man had the strongest pile driver in history. Although his waist was sore from the battle, the old man didn't lose his face as a man. He still had a heroic spirit. But at this moment, Wenwen's condition, who was sitting cross-legged and naked at the side, was rather worrying. He didn't know if she had recovered from her chi deviation. So practicing martial arts wasn't entirely a good thing. The greater the ability, the higher the risk. Looking at how awe-inspiring Wen usually was outside, this chi deviation was really quite scary. Luckily she had the old man as her bestie. Luckily there was a good man like the old man who could support the heavens and earth. At this critical moment where her life was on the line, he could descend from the sky and turn the tide, saving her from danger. No matter what nonsense Chen Guang's thoughts were running wild in his mind, or how that vulgar gaze was wandering around her body, Wen didn't have the mood to bother about it. She was dumbstruck by the huge ball of air that was condensed from the 7 stars united in her dantian. The more she concentrated, the deeper her inner vision went and the stranger she felt. When her entire mind was immersed in it, she seemed to vaguely see a human figure floating in her dantian. That's right, the ball of air that was formed after the 7 stars united was actually like a little person. His own chi of inner strength lingered around the little man like a cloud. From time to time, it would be passively absorbed by the little man. At the same time, the little man would spit out his inner strength. Although she could not detect any changes in a short period of time, Wen was certain that if this little person were to absorb and spit it out, her inner strength would definitely become more condensed. In other words, her inner strength would continue to slowly increase. How was this possible? There was no reason for this at all. I'm not even at the level where I can cultivate this thing. Also, was this actually true? Wasn't this the fantasy of the ancient people in the legends? In ancient legends, it was said that there was a realm of experts who had reached the great accomplishment realm. Their inner strength was like a substance, and they could almost take human form. This inner strength condensed in the Dantian was similar to the person who practiced martial arts, like a miniature version of themselves. This little person had no muscles or bones, but there were tendons and veins inside. The inner strength could continuously circulate in the little person's body, whether it was wearing clothes, eating, walking, or sleeping. It was constantly helping the martial artist improve their inner strength. If the martial artist deliberately meditated, the small circulation in the little person could resonate with the large circulation in the external body. This could greatly increase the speed of the martial artist's inner strength cultivation. This little person was also known as human transformation in the records. It meant that the martial artist's inner strength had transformed into himself. According to the legends, only martial artists who were close to breaking through the void and had reached the pinnacle of strength could condense this so-called human transformation by chance. Of course, it was later proven that this so-called human transformation did not exist at all. It was a helpless fantasy of some of the strong in the ancient times when they could not see any hope of advancing further. They pinned their hopes on this illusory thing and were unwilling to give up the struggle even when they died. However, in the 5,000 years of China's history, there had never been any recorded existence of a martial artist who had successfully cultivated human transformation, nor had there ever been such an absurd thing as breaking through the void. No matter how powerful a martial artist was, they were still human when they reached the pinnacle. They could not become immortals or gods. Legends could only remain legends in the end. There was no record or proof of it becoming reality. Gradually, no one really believed this and only treated it as a fairy tale. Although when one knew about the legend of human transformation and her own strength had improved by leaps and bounds, she had never had extravagant hopes for it. But she had inexplicably succeeded in cultivating it. What exactly is going on with me? What is that 7 stars that inexplicably appeared in my dantian? What does that 7 stars have to do with Qinguang? Why did I lose control of myself every time he approached me? Why did the 7 stars inexplicably move yesterday? After we were done, how did the 7 stars condense into human transformation? There were many questions hidden in her heart that she could not find an answer to. Once again, they surfaced in her heart. But just like before, she still could not figure it out. There was no mention of such a phenomenon in the notes left behind by the ancestors of the Wen clan's cultivation painting scroll. Wenwen's heart was filled with 100,000 whys. But no matter what, the human transformation had already been achieved. This ironclad fact proved that the ancient legends were not empty words. Perhaps a peerless expert with unprecedented strength had just barely touched this step and sensed the existence of the human transformation realm. That was how he came to this conclusion. Unfortunately, that great expert ultimately failed at the last step, so the human transformation realm remained a legend. But now, I made the human transformation realm a reality. It was truly inconceivable. Wenwen could not describe her feelings. Perhaps she was a little proud. After all, she had accomplished something that no one had done before. But she was also very perplexed. Her subconscious told her that this was definitely related to Qinguang, but she could not figure it out no matter how she thought about it. Other than that, what she felt the most was fear and reluctance. Achieving the human transformation realm probably meant that she was about to shatter the void. Although she did not know when it would happen, as long as she did not die in an accident, this was probably an outcome that she could not defy. Either die or shatter the void. It might be tomorrow, or it might be many years later. If I really leave this world, no matter what method I use, it would be better if I die or shatter the void. But what about this guy? He would probably die of sadness, right? Wenwen turned her head and looked at Qinguang, who was lying on the ground. She did not know when he had fallen into a deep sleep. Her heart was filled with mixed feelings. She slowly got up and tried to take a few quick steps by the side of the Magatama pond. She even stepped on the water and jogged a circle on the surface of the water. Compared to walking on the waves before, she really felt much more agile when she stepped on the water now. It was as if she was floating in the air like a fairy. Thinking of the human transformation in her dantian, she was once again sure that she was going to shatter the void. She floated down to Chen Guang's side, feeling lost. Regarding her relationship with Chen Guang, she also felt that it was extremely inconceivable. When she first saw him more than 3 years ago, she did not know why, but she felt that he was exceptionally pleasing to the eye at first glance. Later, she would occasionally think of this question. Why was that? She felt that it was inconceivable. Two people who were supposed to live in completely different worlds, with two different views on life and the world, two people who saw, heard, and interacted with completely different people. Why did they become such important friends just because they liked the same game? Was it love at first sight? Wenwen understood that it was impossible. She was not an impulsive and blind woman, and Xinguang did not have such a strong charm. Love at first sight was completely impossible. When she was with Xinguang, she did not have the strong feelings of liking him. She just felt very relaxed and happy. She did not need to be on guard when she was with him. That was all. Even when she first had a relationship with him, at that time, Wenwen thought that she was going to die anyway. Anyway, this guy was always thinking about it, and she had never tried it anyway. Anyway, she had promised him the bet. Since she was going to honor it, what did it matter if she honored it a little more this time? What was the harm in trying to die later? What was even more amazing was that even after something had happened, when she faced him, it was still difficult for her to bring up the shyness between a man and a woman. It seemed to be different from the past, but it also seemed that nothing had changed. So be it. There was no need to figure out what kind of feelings she had and what he was thinking in his heart. Not every kind of relationship in the world needed to be accurately defined. It was not bad to maintain this way. But today, she finally understood. This was not love at first sight, but the relationship between her and Xinguang was far more than simple love. This was simply the drive of fate. Otherwise, how could she explain that with her character and hobbies, she had originally planned to spend 4 years in university peacefully? Originally, she just wanted to experience the life of ordinary young people from the perspective of a bystander, but she just felt that Xinguang was very pleasing to the eye. How could she explain that this guy obviously had nothing, but she just felt that he was pleasing to the eye? The most inexplicable thing was that she was clearly poisoned by the fire poison and was bound to die. After making love with this guy, the poison was detoxified, her internal injuries were inexplicably healed, and there was an inexplicable 7 stars alignment in her dantian. This time, it was even more ridiculous. The 7 stars alignment became 1, and she became the first martial artist in the world who had the ability to transform into a human. All of this seemed to be a coincidence, but in fact, it was simply fate. Even if she did not know the reason, it must be related to Xinguang. Wenwen stared blankly at Xinguang, who was sleeping soundly, and thought to herself, this guy, could it be that you are the reincarnation of Tang Seng? You are simply a miraculous elixir, the strongest dual cultivation partner in history. The first time, he gave me the 7 stars, the second time, he transformed into a human, and the third time, wouldn't I become an immortal? Sigh, but the problem was that this guy had a handle on me this time. When he wakes up, with this guy's personality, he will definitely want more. What should I do? Logically speaking, should go along with him. As long as I don't cause too much trouble, this matter is actually quite interesting, and also quite comfortable. Wenwen's face was red, and her heart was beating fast. But I don't have much time left in this world. If I first feed him, and then I break through the void, I really don't know how sad he will be. Sigh. Since we are going to separate sooner or later, I might as well let him give up earlier. Wenwen made a decision in her heart. After sleeping for an unknown period of time, Chen Guang slowly opened his eyes. He was no longer lying on the ground, but was sleeping on a warm jade bed. Not far from him was Go Yuqi, and he was wearing a set of martial attire that belonged to an unknown person. As for Wenwen, she was neatly dressed, and was sitting cross-legged at the side, meditating. Chen Guang turned his head to look. The hole on the top of his head had not been repaired, and the rays of the morning sun were shining in through the hole, reflecting on the karst cave. It was extremely beautiful. Chapter 761. You're awake? Wenwen turned around and smiled at him. Chen Guang shook his head. Yes, but I'm tired. How is it? Are you still possessed by the devil? Hee, yesterday. Wenwen interrupted him. I'm fine now. How was yesterday? Thank you. What are you thanking me for? We're friends. It's just a small thing. Chen Guang's tone involuntarily revealed a sense of warmth. After all, the scene of last night was still vivid in his mind. He was not being complacent. Now that their relationship had been established, it was time for him to change a little. Unexpectedly, Wenwen's face did not change at all after hearing that. She still smiled faintly. I should thank you. If it weren't for you, I would have been dead yesterday. By the way, since you've rested enough, come up with me. I've prepared something for you. Chen Guang subconsciously felt that Wenwen's reaction was a little strange, but he did not think much about it. He thought that she might be thin-skinned and didn't want to lose face. When the two came out of the Magatama pond, they saw 5 or 6 old people busy outside. On the ground beside them were cement, granite slabs and steel bars, probably to repair the hole in the pond. Why are all the old people doing the work? Chen Guang asked. Wenwen bowed to greet these old people first, then turned around and explained, these are the elders of the clan. The patriarch's residence is an important place in the clan, and ordinary people are not allowed to approach it. Although the elders look old, they are actually skin-strength warriors. To them, the work of a bricklayer is not as good as the usual morning exercise. I see. When Chen Guang saw this bunch of amiable old men getting busy, he realized that they weren't like those old men that had one foot in the grave. On the contrary, they were all brimming with energy. By the way, I have a question. Speak. Chen Guang seemed to want to say something but stopped. Why do I seem to get no benefit at all? Wenwen turned her face away slightly. She blushed a little, but she quickly regained her cool appearance. Am I not going to give you something good? The medicinal ingredients I prepared for you are enough for you to use for several years. What other benefits do you want? That's not what I meant. Have you seen that? The deer and the cauldron? Isn't that the part where Wei Xiaobao and the divine dragon cult's holy maiden do something? But why don't I feel any changes? Wenwen turned around and patted Chen Guang's shoulder. Young man, wake up. That's a movie. Everyone's internal energy can only be trained by themselves. Moreover, even if I could really pass on my skills to you, with your current physique. As Wenwen spoke, she pinched Chen Guang's shoulder and swallowed the words that she was about to say. She cursed in her heart, how come this guy's arm has inexplicably become stronger after not seeing him for a while? If it was just an ordinary increase in strength, it wouldn't be a big deal. However, his root bone actually improved as well. This was simply unbelievable. What's wrong with my physique? Wenwen rolled her eyes and patted his stomach. The dantian at the waist is the source of internal energy. Your waist and abdomen are weak now. If you really had to bear half of my internal energy, you would definitely explode. All right. The two walked to the hall and saw that the floor was filled with boxes. Wenwen waved the others away and patted the boxes. Then, she signaled Chen Guang to sit with her on the armchair next to her. She said in a low voice, this is your reward. It's enough for you to complete the foundation of the entire painting volume. If you really have the talent to practice martial arts, you can definitely rely on these medicinal ingredients to become a real martial artist. Wait, did I hear it wrong? Reward? I don't like what you're saying. Don't joke around. Be normal. I'm not joking with you. This is your reward for last night. Overnight fee? If you want to understand it that way, there's no problem. Wen still kept a straight face and was very serious. If this batch of medicinal ingredients were to be sold outside, it would probably be worth no less than a few $100 million USD. Moreover, there's a price but no supply. So I worked hard for a night, and I received the most expensive overnight fee in the history of painting? You can say that. Qin Guang glared at him. Can you be more normal? Wake up. Wen still did not change her expression. I'm very normal now. I'm very sober. I know you're not short of money now, but these medicinal ingredients can't be bought with money. They're priceless treasures. Qin Guang was shocked. He turned his head and looked at her. So you want me to say thank you? Thank you for your patronage? He really wanted to flip out. What kind of attitude is this? What do you mean? What do you think the old man is? The world's most expensive Kada duck. Can you not be so melodramatic? Can you stop messing around? Although I wanted to ask for medicinal ingredients from you before, you're giving it to me like this. What kind of joke is this? Qin Guang looked like he had been wronged. Wen turned her face to the other side. The corner of her mouth twitched. She almost laughed out loud. However, she suppressed it in the end. I know you might be a little angry now, but I've changed. Qin Guang frowned. What do you mean? Wen suddenly stood up. Her feet moved without any wind. Her whole body actually floated into the air. She floated around the hall before slowly landing on the ground. Do you see? I'm no longer who I used to be, and I can never go back. As Wen spoke, she still maintained a cold expression on her face. Qin Guang looked at it, and his brows furrowed even more. Yes, it's just as you think. In this period of time, I've killed too many people. The advancement of my martial arts has far exceeded the endurance of my state of mind. I admit that I should like you and want to be with you. However, my heart is very complicated right now. Do you understand? I know that I like you, but my heart just can't stir up any waves. My heart is as tranquil as a pool of water that has been sealed in ice. I thought about it just now. Perhaps it's because I'm too strong now. I'm gradually feeling like I don't belong to this world. This isn't my original intention. Coldness isn't my true feelings either. However, I can't control my feelings. Please forgive me. Wen's tone was so calm that it made people's hearts go cold. She was clearly saying very emotional words, but she really didn't reveal any of her emotions. She looked at Qin Guang as if she was looking at a stranger. Qin Guang sucked in a breath of cold air. He thought to himself, I'm done for. As expected, practicing martial arts wasn't safe. A high level of martial arts could change one's personality. That's not right. The Ouyang Feng in the novels, didn't he train until he became a madman? To put it another way, before this damn sissy Lin Pingji practiced the Bixia swordplay, wasn't he also a gentleman? Wasn't this the effect of the Bixia swordplay? The old golden god didn't lie to me. Practicing martial arts really can cause problems. I don't believe it. Qin Guang's mouth was like a dead duck's. It's up to you whether you believe it or not. In any case, I've already explained it to you. Wen stood in front of Qin Guang with her hands behind her back. She raised her head and looked out the window. It was unknown what she was thinking. Qin Guang reached out his hands. His hands moved like snakes from behind her to her front. He fiercely pinched her chest and slightly squeezed. Even like this, there's still no movement? As he asked, he turned in front of Wen and looked at her face. My God, big sister, your heart is really as calm as water. Even like this, there's still no movement? He didn't believe it and tried to squeeze harder, but Miss Wen was still as cold as ice. Sect Master Wen's long robe fluttered. His face was filled with a holy and cold expression. His voice didn't tremble at all. Don't waste your effort. I really don't feel anything. Letting go, Chen Guang took a step back. Holy shit, did she just abandon me after using me? There's no reason. Clearly, this old man's performance yesterday was so strong. Shouldn't you have tasted the bitter fruit and cherished this old man? On Earth, besides the old man, who else can deal with you? How can you be so heartless? But if I want to try again later, I'll find you again. You don't need the herbs for now. Next time, I'll give you the money. You win. Although the Wen family is a martial arts aristocratic family, we also have many secular businesses. We can still take out 100 million in cash. That's a lot. Let me think. Wait, it's still not enough. This is too embarrassing. Wen continued, then, let's not meet in the future. I feel offended that you're talking to me like this. I'm worried that I'll slap you to death. I know this isn't right, but emotionally, it doesn't seem to matter. It doesn't matter. You're sick. You have to cure it. Stop it. It can't be cured. Just leave it be. No. What do you mean just leave it be? I think it's not harmonious, alright? I know what you're worried about. I understand the thoughts of you men. Don't worry, I only have you. There won't be anyone else. I don't need anyone else. Seeing that Chen Guang was getting more and more anxious, Wen's heart softened and her words softened. Of course. Chen Guang glared. I'll send whoever dares to snatch you from me to heaven, alright? Also, I wasn't joking when I said that we don't meet. I'm serious. I have my reasons. I know what you're talking about. Are you going to fight to the death with the poison sect and the dark sect soon? Wen's expression suddenly changed. How did you know? I guessed it. Wen was speechless. At this point, if Chen Guang still could not tell that Wen was acting, he would have wasted his reputation as a world-class best actor. That's right. I was wondering why you were acting so deep when you had nothing better to do. So this is what you're worried about? Sigh, you should have said so earlier. Just say it if you're afraid of dragging me down. Chen Guang immediately thought that he had seen through Wen's thoughts and could not help but find it extremely funny. Her worries were completely unnecessary. He was no longer the person he used to be. As the director of the Guangdong General Administration and the deputy minister of the country, although he did not have an army under him, with the addition of many martial artists who had defected, the Guangdong General Administration could be said to have a strong army. If he needed fighters, he could easily pull out 30 to 50 people. More importantly, he had already completed more than half of the special training of his muscles. Once his body was fully developed, he would immediately start practicing the painting manual. He could level up 3 levels in a minute and become the Condor heroes with her, alright? However, he did not say anything else. Chen Guang also understood Wen's character. It was useless for him to say anything at this point. However, it did not matter. She would not listen to him anyway. Forget it. Since you want to act, I'll cooperate with you. Alright, you have the final say. It's good that you understand. Give me an address. I'll get someone to send the herbs over. Wen was slightly surprised. She thought that Chen Guang would be a little awkward and say that he wanted to live and die with her. In the end, he accepted his fate so readily. This was not like him. However, Chen Guang was calculating in his heart. He did not spend much time in the world in the cup these few days, so he had saved up quite a lot of faith points. He pinched his fingers and calculated that when he went back, he could use up more than 1 million faith points for 2 deluxe editions. What? Someone said that the beggar edition only costs 600,000? I'm sorry, the wind is too strong, I can't hear it clearly. Don't mention the unlucky beggar edition. I'm really scared, all right? He nodded. All right, then I'll accept your herbs. In order to cooperate with Wenwen's acting, he deliberately added a sense of disappointment in his tone. Wenwen sighed in her heart. She did not expect Qin to accept his fate so quickly. She felt a little relieved, but also a little disappointed. When Qin told Wenwen the address of Tianguang broker, Wenwen wanted to ask him to leave. The longer she acted, the more afraid she was of exposing herself. She did not want Qin to see the reluctance and longing in the depths of her heart. If it was possible, she wanted to be like any other girl and stay with him for a long time. However, when she thought of the human transformation in her dantian and the legend of breaking through the void, the two of them would be separated sooner or later. She felt that she had to make Qin give up completely. As for the possibility that Qin could also turn into a human and reach the realm of breaking through the void, Wenwen did not dare to hope for it. She was the first in history. How could there be a second one? She opened her mouth slightly and said, then, Qin stopped her. I thought about it. I'm a little short of money recently. What do you mean? Wenwen frowned slightly. Can you let me earn $1 billion first? Qin knew that she was acting, so he deliberately teased her. Wenwen's heart was slightly warm. Thinking of the feeling yesterday, she was really tempted. Yesterday was different from the last time. Although she was completely awake both times, the last time was when she thought she was going to die. Although she was in the same dangerous situation yesterday, as the 7 stars became more and more stable, she also forgot about the problem of cultivation and became an ordinary person. Another day. I'll come to you. I'm not in the mood today. In the end, Wenwen rejected his proposal. Alas, okay. Finally seeing Qin off, Wenwen stood under the memorial arch of the Wenzong Pavilion and watched him gradually disappear on the long chain bridge. Sect Master, why did you treat the son-in-law like this? The old woman with a cane from before quietly appeared behind Wenwen. Wenwen turned around. Fourth grandmother, have you heard of the human transformation? Fourth grandmother was shocked. Don't tell me, Wenwen nodded. That's right. I've cultivated the human transformation. Fourth grandmother staggered backward. This. How is this possible? Wenwen seemed proud and helpless at the same time. Although I feel that it's unbelievable, it's the truth. But the human transformation doesn't exist. As one of the elders of the Wen family, fourth grandmother was experienced and knowledgeable. She was familiar with the ancient books, but she didn't dare to believe Wenwen's words. After being stunned for a long time, fourth grandmother said again, Sect Master, why don't you carefully meditate again? Are you sure it's true? Wenwen nodded. Okay. This time, I will enter seclusion. I must see the human transformation clearly. A day later, Wenwen sat on the jade platform in the center of the Magatama pond with a blank face. Her mind was simply filled with 100,000 whys. What the hell? What happened? This human transformation looked exactly like Qin. That baldy, that cheeky expression, it was simply, in other words, there was a little Qin living in her stomach. Oh my God. Crazy. What was going on? What should he do now? Why was that? Could it be that I'm pregnant? Pregnant with Qin? Crazy. Completely insane. Chapter 762. Wenwen's mind was full of questions. In a sense, she should already be the strongest inner force martial artist in the world. She had read a lot of books, and her knowledge was not comparable to that of ordinary people. However, in all the records of the books, no one had really practiced humanization. There was no reason for a martial artist to practice humanization in the form of another person. This was completely unreasonable, completely unscientific, and completely without foundation. But she couldn't tell anyone about this, let alone the fourth grandmother or the elders of the family. It was not that she wanted to hide it from anyone, but Wenwen knew very well that she didn't know the reason, and it was useless to tell others. No one could give her an answer, unless Chen Guang knew something. So she picked up the phone again, and at this time, Chen Guang was already in the special car sent by the military to pick him up. "Oh, so fast?" Chen Guang asked. Wen didn't understand. "What's so fast?" Chen Guang's mouth twitched slightly. He knew that she was still acting her life and death, so he didn't expose her. Instead, he said in a language that only the two of them could understand, "This is Mr. Chen's psychological consultation. Dear female customer, do you need any after-sales service? I promise to be on call, and you will be satisfied. F***CK. Wen almost cursed out shyly, but she immediately controlled her tone. After all, she had been pretending to be profound not long ago. If she returned to her original self in such a short time, wouldn't she be a joke to him? Or how could she quibble with him about the so-called martial arts practice affecting her state of mind? Ahem, I'm asking you where you went. After a slight cough, Wen cleverly changed the topic. Oh, I got in the car. I went back to Yanjing first, and then back to Wujing. School is about to start. What about you? Me? Maybe, I can't go back to school. Wen answered Chen Guang. She was also very confused. Not long ago, she couldn't go back to school, and she couldn't even stay in this world for long. But now? She had no idea what kind of situation she was in. As for whether she could break through the void? To hell with it. Thinking that she had made such a big mistake and thought that she was really the number one genius in 10,000 years, Wen felt extremely embarrassed. Speaking up to this point, Chen Guang didn't have the mood to joke around anymore. He was rather melancholic. That's right. After all, things are different now. Wen changed the topic again. By the way, do you feel anything unusual in your body? Do you feel like you're missing something? Chen Guang was extremely puzzled. What's missing? He thought hard, but he still couldn't figure it out. I thought about it very seriously. 200 million less? 200 million? All right, I'll transfer the money to you. Wait, I'm not talking about money. Wen pondered for a moment and then suddenly understood what Chen Guang meant. On the other side of the phone, her tender face was slightly red. Fortunately, the two of them were separated by the phone, otherwise, she would definitely be exposed. She forced her tone to become indifferent. Don't joke with me, it's not interesting at all. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'll hang up first. After that, she hung up. Chief Chen, you're smiling so happily. Qian Ming, who was sitting in front of Chen Guang, turned around and teased him. Chen Guang pursed his lips. Shut up. Shut up. The helicopter had already been driven back by full-time personnel. This time, Chen Guang took the car directly back to Yanjing. It was already past 5 in the afternoon when he arrived downtown. Sun Xiaoxuan, Gao Ya, and Lin Jingwei had flown back to Wujing in the morning. It was time to go back to school. In fact, school had already started today, so it was fine for Chen Guang to be late. However, as the class president, Sun Xiaoxuan still had to meet with the new counselor for this semester. Next semester would be the last semester of the senior year, and it was time for the students in the class to think about their own paths. Those who were going to take the postgraduate entrance exam should prepare early. Those who were going to work should go out and look for internships if there was a chance in their senior year. Those who were going to take makeup exams should sort out how many credits they were lacking and if there were any compulsory courses they had to pass. Although these things were supposed to be the students' business, as the serious and responsible class president, Sun Xiaoxuan had to know everyone's situation. She reminded those who needed to be reminded, and talked to those who needed to be talked to. Alright, the person she needed to talk to the most was Chen Guang, who had almost skipped all the final exams last semester. This guy actually had quite a lot of classes to make up for. Jean Shiyue and Jiang Yage had already returned to London. The two of them had rushed back to China to guest host Chen Guang, and the results were better than expected. Unfortunately, before they could ask for credit from Chen Guang, he had accepted some urgent task and ran away. After the incident, the two of them had secretly asked their grandpa about it. Chen Guang really wasn't talking nonsense. They heard that it was really something big. The Shiraba was unknowingly turned into nothingness by Chen Guang's Tai Chi. Today, only Wu Tong was still in Beijing. Chen Guang first got Lu Xiaoyang to buy him a plane ticket back to Beijing tomorrow morning. Then, he asked for a car and drove to Wu Tong's branch alone to wait outside. He still wanted to ask Wu Tong about the world breaker. There were some things that he didn't want to talk about, but it didn't mean that he would just let it be. The world breaker thought that he was a pushover and had been provoking him time and time again. As the chief of the Guangdong General Administration, he had to do something. Otherwise, it would be a waste of his identity. There was no reason for him to take on the responsibility and sit in this position while being provoked by those rascals. The greater the responsibility, the greater the power. Until now, the grandpa hadn't asked him about his attitude. In Chen Guang's opinion, they might have their own considerations. Maybe they were observing him to see if he really had the self-awareness of a deputy chief and how he would respond. After all, at his level, he didn't need to consider other people's opinions unless it was a major decision that would shake the foundation. He alone had enough decision-making power. As usual, everyone in the Xinhua branch in Beijing was in a hurry. It had been more than 2 months since the arrival of the new chief. The entire branch was like a tightly wound machine. Everyone's working ability was squeezed to the extreme. At first, it was said that there would be a new chief who was young and beautiful. No, to be precise, it was a new chief who was too young and as beautiful as a star. Apart from the old chief who had to retire early and the 3 deputy chiefs who had been waiting for years, the whole branch was in a state of jubilation. Especially the men, they were all looking forward to it. Later, the new chief came. She was as young as the rumors said, and she was even prettier. More importantly, she was single. Unfortunately, the excitement didn't last for more than 3 days. Because they soon discovered that the female chief was not there to gain experience, nor was she there to find a rich husband. Although they heard that she had some background, it didn't matter. She was a devil. On the first day, she used her iron fists to teach the 2 so-called elite captains in the bureau what close combat was. She fought 1 against 2 and beat them up so badly that they didn't even know which way was north. She didn't even tear her own clothes. On the second day, she led the team to participate in shooting training and scored the first perfect shooting target in the history of the Xinhua branch. On the third day, she personally led the team to the terrorists' lair. As the chief, she was the first to rush to the front and kill 3 people with her own hands. She didn't even blink. Ancient Rome took 7 days to build, but Wu Tong's reputation in the Xinhua branch only took 3 days. Next, it was time for her to lead the whole branch to create a miracle. In just 2 months, the crime rate in the entire Xinhua branch had dropped by 0.5%, reaching the lowest point in history. One had to admit that it was all thanks to the Iron Devil, Chief Wu. But what did we see today? When she walked out of the office, she was humming a song. Her colleagues said that she was putting on powder in the makeup room. She was putting on makeup. Even if it was light, it was still the end of the world. Did the sun rise from the west? Chapter 763. Wu Tong didn't know what was wrong with her today. She knew that Chen Guang wanted to talk business with her. She knew that there were more and more people who liked him, and the possibility of them being together was getting smaller and smaller. However, she couldn't help but want to make herself prettier. Perhaps, I've developed a sense of crisis. In fact, it didn't make sense. Anyway, she didn't think about the future. It was good to be like this. He was happy, and she was happy. There were no rumors outside. There was nothing wrong with it. As for the people in the unit who tried to introduce her to a blind date from time to time, what a joke. I'm not even 26 years old. What's the rush? There were also some people who dared to confess, send flowers, and all kinds of overt and covert concerns. Wu Tong selectively ignored them. She was cold enough to make people think that she was a celibate. She didn't believe that there was another man in the world like him, who could make her yearn for him at first sight. No other man could be like him, who came from the sky and pulled her back from the hands of the Grim Reaper when she was at her most desperate. She didn't have to repay the person who saved her life. But if the person who saved her life was the one she liked, what else was there to say? Just make do with it. What, someone said he was young? Sorry, the wind is too strong, I can't hear it clearly. Someone said, what if he doesn't want to make do with it? What does it matter? I'm a woman. A man chasing a woman is like a mountain. A woman chasing a man is like a veil. Even if he doesn't want to make do with it, I can force it. So, if someone asked Wu Tong if she would like someone else, it was impossible. Even she didn't believe it. It has been some time since she graduated from the police academy, and it's not like she hasn't seen any elite officers in Shun's special training camp. But no matter how she looked, she couldn't find anyone comparable to Chen Guang. I don't know if I'm in the eye of the beholder, or if I'm blinded by lard. Forget it, it's meaningless to think too much. Maybe I have some preconceived notions, but it doesn't matter. I'm a strict police officer. I have my own judgment. I believe in my own judgment. I really can't find anyone better than him. Alright, it doesn't matter if he's not that outstanding, as long as I like him. I am older than him. No, I am older by 5 or 6 years. In the eyes of the average person, I am already much older. Now that he was getting more and more famous, it was even more impossible for her to be with him in public. Otherwise, no matter if it was her or him, they would probably be condemned by everyone. But wasn't it shown in foreign movies? As long as they were happy, why should they care about those titles? Furthermore, what qualifications do I have? Come to think of it, this kid is really getting more and more outstanding. I don't know where he learned all these strange abilities. Just like, how did he find those people last night? Also, wasn't that Tubramuru language a little too strange? Rumor had it that his grades in class weren't that good. Why would he have the time to learn a foreign language that he had never even heard of? It even gave him a miraculous achievement. It was really strange. Wu Tong sat in the office, propping up her chin as she looked out the window. Her eyes were listless, and her mind was filled with countless thoughts. She couldn't even sort out her own thoughts. Of course, she didn't intend to sort them out, but these similar thoughts kept popping up in the depths of her mind from time to time ever since she stayed in Yanjing. She was like an assassin, stabbing and leaving without leaving any traces. Ever since Chen Guang came to Yanjing again, these thoughts didn't fade away. Instead, they became more and more intense. After a long time, she came back to her senses. She looked at herself in the mirror with light makeup. I'm probably really hopeless. Alright, I admit that I can make myself look more spirited after dressing up a little, but it doesn't seem like I've become particularly beautiful. I still can't compare to Jean Shiriyue. Strange, why am I thinking about all this? Seriously, Tanging only gave me useless ideas. In fact, she was being too modest. In terms of facial features, she might not be comparable to the national beauty, Jean Shiriyue. However, she was an ace police officer on the front line, and now that she was in a high position, she naturally had a temperament that was different from others. A person's charm didn't only lie in their appearance. Moreover, her appearance wasn't an absolute disadvantage. Compared to Jean Shiriyue, they both had their own advantages. At least in the eyes of the other police officers in the Xinhua branch, their Chief Wu was much more beautiful than the average celebrity. Bureau of Martial Arts? Bureau of Martial Arts, Wu Tong was called twice before she came back to her senses. She put on a stern face and assumed the posture of a chief. She coughed twice and immediately switched to work mode. She said in a deep voice, "What is it?" "Speak." Very good. I'm getting better at switching modes. No one should be able to tell that I was thinking about a man just now, right? That. Bureau of Martial Arts, it's time to get off work. The office director, who had goosebumps all over his body because of her Iron Lady stare, shrunk his neck and said. Wu Tong blushed. How embarrassing. When Wu Tong walked out of the office, the remaining police officers on duty gathered together and whispered to each other. What do you think is going on with Bureau of Martial Arts? What could be going on? Bureau of Martial Arts is also a woman, and women need to be loved. Who do you think is so lucky? Lucky? I don't think so, right? Bureau of Martial Arts is so domineering. Ordinary men can't stand it. You're right, but I'm quite envious. Well, I'm envious, too. How about we go down and follow her? Let's see if we can find that lucky guy. Go if you want, but I don't want to die. I've heard that Bureau of Martial Arts anti-tracking ability is top-notch in the special training camp of Shund. With your lousy skills, she can be found in minutes. You'll be in a lot of trouble then. That's right. My gossipy soul, shut up and get to work. You are the one who started the topic. I told you to shut up. Although it was already evening and the sky was dark, Chen Guang was still wearing a cap, sunglasses, and a mask. He was fully armed. It couldn't be helped. People were afraid of being famous, and pigs were afraid of being fat. This was the price of being famous. Recently, he was feeling hot. If someone took a photo of him meeting the beautiful police chief here, he would probably be on the front page. Social media and Weibo circles would be flooded for 3 days. When the two met, Wu Tong almost didn't recognize Chen Guang. She really couldn't blame her eyesight. It was all because Chen Guang was too engrossed in acting as an ordinary person at this time. He stood there, and his sense of existence was so low that even rain couldn't fall on him. Kid, did you go to be a spy somewhere? The two sat in the private room of the tea restaurant, and Wu Tong said casually. Chen Guang shook his head. What nonsense are you talking about? With my level, isn't it a waste of talent to be a spy? You're right. Wu Tong responded, and then stirred the spoon back and forth in the coffee. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. She muttered to herself, this idiot, why didn't he compliment me? I worked so hard to dress up in the bathroom according to the shadow girl's instructions, and it was really tiring and embarrassing. The two of us have met for several minutes now, and this guy didn't say anything at all. Sigh, do you understand the feeling of a woman dressing up for the man she likes? Strange. Just as Wu Tong was complaining in her heart, Chen Guang suddenly said something without rhyme or reason. Wu Tong looked up at him blankly. What's wrong? Chen Guang moved his head closer. Why do I feel that you have become a little more beautiful today? Wu Tong suddenly became shy. What nonsense are you talking about? Are you going to talk about the shattered world today? Really, you're rambling on and on. What exactly are you planning? I don't think we can just let it go like this. Why don't you set up a task force and call Xuelin back to be the leader of the task force? That was why women were so strange. Chen Guang didn't see that she had makeup on, and she felt wronged. But when she said it out loud, she started to feel shy again. Chen Guang took a sip of his coffee, and began to seriously consider Wu Tong's suggestion. It was impolite not to reciprocate. Since the unlucky shattered world refused to let go because of Xuelin, he might as well reciprocate. If he didn't teach them a lesson, they would really look down on him. All right. You can contact Xuelin, right? Help me call her back. I will also report to the higher-ups. Chen Guang muttered. Speaking of the higher-ups, he was actually quite at a loss. Although his rank was quite high, he had never participated in any formal meetings since he took office. Besides, he didn't seem to have a clear department in charge of the Guangbing General Administration. His usual contact with other people was handled by Enchanting and Wu Miaowan, which saved him a lot of trouble. According to the document that Enchanting brought back at the beginning, he seemed to be directly responsible to the old masters, and didn't have a department in charge, right? He had to figure this out later. Also, after calling Shuelin back, what should the composition of the task force be, and what to do next? It seemed that he had to think carefully. He didn't have any experience in dealing with such international affairs, and it was quite troublesome. Wu Tong looked at him grumpily, regretting that she accidentally led the conversation in this direction, and this guy immediately followed it. Well, today's work was really wasted. After thinking for a long time, when the waiter brought the steak rice over, Wu Tong knocked on the table, reminding him that it was time to eat. By the way, I may be transferred back to the 5 capitals after some time. What's wrong? Uncle Wu, have you thought it through? Wu Tong smiled, feeling a little proud. Yes, I have. What's the saying again? If it's a blessing, it's not a curse, and if it's a curse, it can't be avoided. He kept me in Yanjing, hoping that I would stay away from danger and your things. Chapter 764. Qin Guang smiled. But now he's realized that it's useless. That's just how you are. No matter where you are, you'll always bring danger to yourself. Even if he asked you to be the bureau chief of the district branch, you'd still be able to brace yourself and charge to the front. You're a good bureau chief, but you end up doing the work of a suicide squad. Isn't that right? You can't say that. As an official, if I can't even take the lead, how can I lead my brothers to charge to the front? My life is a life, and so are my brothers' lives. I'm more capable, and my ability to protect myself is stronger. Why don't I do it myself? I don't want to be the kind of official who sits in his office and directs the world with vigor. Even so, it's inevitable that people will worry. Uncle Wu is right to be concerned about your safety. Wu Tong sneered. You have the cheek to talk about me? Do you think I don't know what you did in Detroit? Besides, when I was kidnapped by Shizhou, didn't you come as well? Why didn't you think about yourself? TSK. Qin Guang's face stiffened. I'm different from you. I have confidence. What confidence do you have? Aren't you just a student? Don't tell me you have 3 heads and 6 arms. Tell me, be honest. Where did you learn your skills? Wu Tong finally found an opportunity to ask this question. She had been hiding it in her heart for a long time. Of course, Qin Guang wouldn't tell her about the heavenly Holy Grail, but Wu Tong knew him very well. It was impossible to pretend that he didn't know anything. I can't explain it to you in a short time, but, do you believe in the existence of God? It appeared again. The same trick he used to trick Tang Ying. Theism. Wu Tong's pupils shrank. She stared blankly at Qin Guang. She thought he was talking nonsense, but it seemed like he was serious. God? Don't joke around. What era is this? Qin Guang gulped down a mouthful of water. Just take it as a joke. After dinner, Qin Guang returned to the hotel. Wu Tong's mind was also filled with thoughts about Qin Guang's theism. Although Qin Guang didn't say much about it, she was still greatly impacted by it. It was similar to how Tang Ying felt when she first heard about it. However, Qin Guang didn't tell her everything, so she could only guess on her own. As for Qin Guang, although Wu Tong was quite beautiful today and sometimes made him have evil thoughts, he had a lot of things on his mind at this time. Even though Wen did not make it clear, it was very likely that her battle to the death with Poison Sect and Dark Sect was coming soon. Qin Guang was starting to get anxious as well. As the saying goes, do one's best and leave the rest to the heavens. No matter what the final outcome is, do everything you can before things become the worst. At the very least, you won't have any regrets in your heart when you are truly consigned to eternal damnation. That was what Qin Guang thought and had been doing all along. During this period of time, he had thought of everything and done a lot of things. It might seem like he was hammering here and there, but in fact, everything he did had only one goal, which was to make the production of faith points catch up with the demand. Although he was always laughing and fooling around as if he didn't have a care in the world, he had never wasted a single moment or slowed down his pace. During this period of time, everything he did was for the sake of completing the muscle training in his body as soon as possible so that he could reach the standard of inner force. Since Wen had to pretend to be cold and indifferent in order to disassociate herself from him, it meant that the situation was more critical than he had imagined. Therefore, time waited for no man. At this moment, there were many problems in front of him. First, he had to maintain a good relationship with the old masters. He had to make use of his identity as the director of the stabilizing general headquarters to find a way to become Wen's right-hand man. On the other hand, when the stabilizing general headquarters grew stronger, it would be time to take action against those stubborn inner force martial artists. Without a doubt, Poison Sect and Dark Sect were the best among these stubborn people. Even if he couldn't kill them all, they could at least help to restrain Wen a little. Second, he had to find trouble with World Breaker as soon as possible. The more intense the method, the better. Chen Guang was really sick of these bugs flying around him all day long. Third, he had to find ways to increase the production of faith points. No matter what method he used, as long as it could increase, it was a good thing. However, the Great Perfection Cup World, which could increase his faith points to the maximum in a short period of time, was almost complete. The only things left were the pile driver and the racing god training ground. However, both of them were not low and were not far from the maximum. It was not worth it to continue spending time and energy on them. Therefore, he needed a new god statue. However, ever since he inexplicably lost the 7 great god statues, he had not obtained a new one. On one hand, other than the 7 great god statues, it was difficult for his other skills to be recognized by the world in a short period of time, such as acting skills. On the other hand, he did not have the time and leisure to mess around with new god statues, such as the 4,978 languages. Another option was to train his muscles in batches. Chen Guang had thought of doing something about this, but it was not easy to come across an opportunity like the World Arm Wrestling Competition. It was time-consuming and laborious to hold the competition with his own money. There were as many as 40 muscle groups, and it was not practical to train each of them once like the World Arm Wrestling Competition. In addition, there should be no one interested in the strongest foot sols. No one would participate in the competition, and no one would watch the live broadcast. That would be embarrassing. Therefore, Chen Guang had to go back and complete 2 deluxe special training sessions. Then, he had to think about the god statue of the Heavenly Holy Grail. Well, to put it bluntly, he was asking Liuli for help. She always had a way. Although it was good to have a relationship with Wu Tong, it was not the right time. In a house in the Middle East, Xue Lin, with a face full of stubble and skin tanned, walked out with his travel bag. At this moment, he was playing the role of a traveling reporter. There were many scars on his face, and he had completely bid farewell to the image of a white-faced young man in the 5 capital. He had stayed here for 5 days. In these few days, he had caused a lot of damage to the broken world training camp near this small town. It was time to leave. Yo, Mr. Reporter, are you going somewhere far again? Xue Lin smiled. Yes, I've been out for too long. It's time to go home. He had never thought that he would experience so much killing on this trip, nor did he expect that he would be able to survive until now. Ever since he gave up his military post and left the country, he had never thought of going back alive. But in the end, he gritted his teeth and endured it. Relying on the pair of hands that Chen Guang had given him, Xue Lin turned around and waved, then strode forward with his head held high. In a sense, he had avenged his brothers, but he did not relax. Instead, his heart was still heavy. Xue Lin knew that his actions had caused a lot of trouble in the country. This went against his duty as a soldier. However, he could not convince himself to stop. The arrow had already left the bow, so how could he retract it? I have no other choice. Every day that he walked on this land, Xue Lin deeply felt the pain that the broken world had brought to the people of this land. Furthermore, these people had dared to target the faraway country of China and caused the deaths of his brothers at the border. His sense of justice, his sense of responsibility, the hatred in his heart, the provocation of the broken world towards China, and the strong response from China. All of these were telling Xuelin. Since you've started this, don't stop. Either you die overseas, or you make the people of the broken world lose the courage to go against China. You have to kill them until they are afraid. Unfortunately, due to some inconvenient reasons, up until now, even though his father, Xuezhan, really wanted to help him, he was only able to provide some assistance in terms of information in the end, and he'd never sent a single soldier to help him. Up until now, Xuelin had been fighting alone. In fact, this was the norm for China's special forces. Unless they were representing the country to carry out public duties, even if it was a secret mission, in order to avoid international disputes, they would usually give up their official duties by leaving the country. Only if they could return alive would they be able to resume their official duties and be rewarded accordingly. For example, a few years ago, 3 police officers were tasked with the important task of solving the Mekong River massacre. They concealed their identities and hid for several months before they finally captured the drug lord. This time, what Xuelin was doing was even more dangerous than the Mekong River Special Task Force. The enemies he had to deal with were more ruthless and had a greater impact on the international community. Hence, he could not expose his identity. He really thought that he wouldn't be able to go back and had no intention of going back. He knew that it was impossible for him to uproot the entire broken world with his strength alone. Perhaps dying in this matter would be his final destination. At least, he would have no regrets. However, he never dreamed that Mr. Chen would make such an unbelievable leap in such a short period of time. Now, he had become a big shot with real power. What made Xuelin even more ecstatic was that the authority of the newly established Guangdong General Bureau seemed to be far above the ordinary departments. Chief Chen wants to help me. If Chief Chen took the lead and set up a special task force, or even a special task force, they would be able to deal with this matter more specifically. The shattered world was not even worth mentioning in front of the powerful Chinese military. Their support and help will no longer be limited to words, and I will no longer have to fight alone. I heard that the Guangdong General Bureau has newly recruited internal force users. I wonder what will happen if I work together with these people. If I have the chance, will I be able to learn a trick or two from my colleagues? More importantly, if everything is as Chief Chen said, then I will no longer be a moth flying into the fire. I will be able to turn the impossible into the possible, and I will be able to eradicate these damned criminals. With such a light heart, Xuelin boarded the plane back to China. He thought to himself, the day I return will be the day of your destruction. Xuelin clenched his fists. This is my responsibility. The trouble started because of me, so I should be the one to end it. I have never regretted doing this alone. Chapter 765. In the hotel, Chen Guang was lying in the bathtub with a satisfied look on his face. He had already changed his medicine twice. It was quite troublesome to brew his own medicine, but he didn't have any helpers when he was outside, so he had to rely on himself. Just now, he had successfully completed 2 customized special training sessions in the cup. He had learned from his mistakes, and this time, he had his eyes on his waist and abdominal muscles. A man must have a good waist. The cultivation process was a little painful, but the results were still quite gratifying. The deluxe version, which consumed more than 1,000,000 faith points, was much more humane than the beggar version. At least he had been given different fitness equipment, and he didn't have to drill out a pair of deceptive mechanical arms to press on his chest muscles. Nicosia Tempest felt quite wronged. Sometimes, she thought that she might as well just die. Originally, he was thinking about life properly, but he was inexplicably dragged to a strange place by the goddess and turned into an even stranger fitness equipment. This stinky man leaned on him and rubbed against him, but he was powerless to resist. She had finally been freed, but before she could catch her breath, she had been dragged in again and done it again. Great goddess, when will I be free? Nicosia's soul roared loudly in the pitch-black and boundless void. Unfortunately, no one paid attention to her. Forget it. Nicosia sighed and fell silent again. She did not know how many years she had been in this place. Perhaps she had lost the concept of time. Fortunately, she was a mad scientist. Even if there was nothing, just imagining the results of her previous research in her mind was actually quite interesting. For example, now, she had finally deduced why her electromagnetic railgun had exploded. She had died with no regrets. Just like the elders of the Tempest family, she had died because of her overconfidence. However, at that moment, Azure did not have time to care about Nicosia. Even Qinguang's special training had been arranged by himself. At that time, Azure had still locked herself in the leaves of the deer-cry fruit tree. Now that she had woken up, it was because of another matter. The 7 statues that had mysteriously disappeared were completely gone, and there had been no new statues recently. It seemed that it had something to do with the disappearance of the 7 statues. However, since yesterday, it seemed that there had been some faint movements from the statues. It was as if a new statue was being formed, but because of the loss of the previous 7 statues, it was being held back and suppressed to the point that it couldn't come out. Qinguang, who was about to go to bed, was dragged into an international chat room by a group of people. Most of the people in the chat room were from international airlines, as well as the technical directors of a few large Chinese airlines, as well as hundreds of aviation safety experts. At the previous press conference, Qinguang had casually said that he would write a detailed analysis of his operation process. In the end, he had been busy playing the piano and saving Wenwen, so he had completely forgotten. However, others would not forget and had been thinking about it. After waiting for more than a day, there was no movement. Everyone couldn't help but gather together to try to crack it. Unfortunately, Qinguang's realm was much higher than theirs. No matter how they analyzed and deliberated, the result was the same as before. They could not understand it. The more they pondered over every step of Qinguang's operation recorded in the black box, the more they understood the gap between the two sides. Although reason kept telling everyone that there was no reason for Qinguang to be so much better than others, the truth was clearly in front of everyone and could not be refuted. They admired Qinguang's achievements in piloting more and more, and wanted to crack his mystery more and more. Aviation safety was related to the lives of all passengers. If they could successfully learn some of Qinguang's piloting skills, write it into the operating procedures, and take this opportunity to bring aviation safety to a higher level, it would be a great merit. It would also be the best explanation for the frightened passengers on DL Flight 199333. After a day of continuous discussion, many experts and top pilots were at a loss. They simply found the person in charge of Air China and asked him to invite Qinguang. At this time, it was past 11 o'clock at night in Yanjing, but the sky was bright abroad. Technical experts from all over the world gathered together to crack the mystery of Qinguang's operation, so they did not care much about time. Aviation was like this. All pilots were unwilling to let go of the slightest opportunity to increase safety, because the fault tolerance of aviation was too low, and the price was too high. There was often only a fine line between a hero and a disaster. Every advancement in safety technology was built on repeated painful or frightening lessons, but the answers could be clearly obtained through technical analysis of previous incidents. But this time, if Qinguang didn't look for him to explain, even those top-notch experts wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Hence, they couldn't be bothered about the fact that it was late at night in China and dragged Qinguang along. At this moment, Qinguang also felt somewhat embarrassed. After all, he would have to take a flight tomorrow and enjoy a lifetime hero's medal. Thus, he felt that it was time for him to clear up the doubts of those people. So he did not hold back. He slept very well last night, and now he was in a good state of mind, so he simply chatted with everyone in the chat room. Whatever people asked, he answered. Not only that, but he also drew inferences and answered in simple terms. This was simply strange and inexplicable. How was the knowledge he displayed like a beginner? This guy was simply an aviation encyclopedia. There were people who secretly thought that the smooth landing of DL Flight 199333 was all thanks to Chen Guang, but there must be a lot of coincidences in the actual operation process, and luck should be the main factor. But when they listened to Chen Guang's explanation of the right engine explosion, and the series of operations when he operated the single-engine Airbus A320 through the thunderclouds, no one thought that it was luck anymore. There was only one thought left in their minds. Oh my God. Usually, Chen Guang wouldn't be so patient. But just a moment ago, an idea popped up in his mind. Among the few worlds in a cup that he had mastered, wasn't it the world of pilots that was the easiest to get a statue of God without great success? Now that he was here giving a lecture to others, if he could convince these people, then he could come up with some useful information for them to incorporate into the pilot's operating procedures. Wouldn't that be equivalent to gaining the recognition of the entire civil aviation industry? No, it wasn't enough to just talk about civil aviation. He couldn't just bring out all the real knowledge in one basket. He had to think of a way to bring out some of his experience in piloting fighter jets. But he couldn't be too deliberate. He had to hide it and let them figure it out on their own. Then, they would think that others didn't know and secretly picked up a treasure. This was a test of the art of speaking, and it also required strong professional knowledge. How to bring out the real knowledge mixed with the real knowledge was also a skill. Otherwise, if it was too obvious, it would instead make people suspicious. The other international friends would think that he was cheating them. If he did this well, he might be able to erect the statue of God in the pilot training ground. Although it was difficult, for the sake of faith, he had to become a master of speaking. When the benefits of doing things were no longer limited to doing favors, but involved the statue of God and faith, his fighting spirit was suddenly ignited. Needless to say, he was in a good state today. He explained what needed to be explained, and when he needed to, he did not fall behind. He spoke happily, and the others were also satisfied. Everyone was happy, and they quickly started taking notes. Everyone was so excited that they forgot the time. Seeing that it was almost time, Chen Guang yawned and looked at the time on the computer. He said, everyone, it's already 3 in the morning here. Let's stop here for today. Hey. Don't. Mr. Chen, don't. Let us finish asking. I still have a lot of questions here. We're not sleepy, we're really not sleepy. We're not sleepy at all. Even the person in charge of Air China in Beijing said energetically. Chen Guang yawned again. That's not good. I'm a little sleepy now. What if I say something wrong? Don't worry. How about this, tomorrow, at the same time, I welcome everyone to my lecture hall. We'll really end it here for today. Everyone thought about it. His words made sense. Everyone treated what he said as the golden rule. What if he was muddle-headed and said something wrong? What would they do? After closing the chat room, a proud smile appeared on Chen Guang's face. He was actually not tired, but he deliberately pretended to be. Today, he had only talked about the operation of passing through the thunderstorm. There was still at least 2/3 of the content left. When these people went back, they would definitely carefully analyze what he had just said. They would definitely find the hidden information in it. If he said too much at once, it would give them too much information. What if they missed it? Therefore, food had to be eaten one bite at a time. This class still had to be taught one lesson at a time. First, he would whet the appetite of these people, then feed them bit by bit, so that his influence would rapidly advance in the 2 major systems of civil aviation and air force. Then, the statue of God in the world of pilots would naturally be formed. Chapter 766. Before falling asleep, he entered the cup world again. When he first entered, Liuli and Dear Mingguo seemed to be in a heated discussion, but as soon as he entered, the two of them became silent. Chen Guang went up and asked, "Hey, what are you talking about?" Dear Mingguo said sweetly, "Why do you care?" "I want to care." "Is that so?" "I'm kidding." The sun outside is so beautiful today. Don't you want to go out and see? Yes, and then? Isn't it because you're too useless that Sister Leoli and I have been trapped here? Don't disturb my sleep. Do whatever you want. Also, isn't it night outside? What sun is there? Dear Mingguo looked like she didn't want to communicate with him and was going to give him a big leaf. Although Chen Guang felt that these two gods were sneaky, he couldn't do anything about them. After seeing the latest situation of his faith points, he was immediately overjoyed. Even the impatient Dear Mingguo became particularly cute in his eyes. That's right. After more than a day, his Piano World's faith point production capacity was finally full. What did I see? If he remembered correctly, the upper limit of his faith point production was more than 44,600 a while ago. But now, in the blink of an eye, it became 52,013. What happened? A sudden windfall? Did I pick up a treasure? Do you know how amazing I am? Seeing his dull face, Dear Mingguo's triumphant voice came. Chen Guang ran to the edge of Cloud City. Dear Mingguo, is this your credit? Dear Mingguo thought that he could finally hold his head high. What else? Chen Guang said very honestly, but it used to increase little by little. Oh my, you increased so much all of a sudden. I'm a little flattered and can't react. Dear Mingguo stretched out a leaf and patted his head. Actually, this is also your credit. Have you forgotten? Last time I sucked your blood, my head suddenly shot up, so of course it increased by this much. Chen Guang was overjoyed. Is my blood really that nourishing? Another round? Lu Mingguo was slightly moved, but she quickly retracted that thought in her heart. No, it's better to be like this for a while. I'm afraid I'll kill you. Don't stand on ceremony with me. Come, let's do it. 1 drop of essence, 10 drops of blood. I have even more nourishing things here. Lu Mingguo spat, F***CKU, you wretched fellow, you're simply dragging down the standards of our god realm. After coming out of the cup world, Chen Guang crossed his legs and laid on the bed. Although it was already past 3 in the morning, he was still too excited to fall asleep. He couldn't help but be happy and excited. Suddenly, the upper limit of his faith value had increased by so much. It was simply a windfall. Holding the calculator, the total number of faith points produced by the 7 Great Perfection Cups shot up to 360,000. Even if he was a little more extravagant, he would only be able to enjoy the luxurious version of the world in a cup once every 3 days. His gloomy life was finally going to see the light. Actually, he was being too modest. If his life was gloomy, then others would not be able to see the light of day all year round. In just these 2 days, the detailed analysis of his shocking double-handedly playing The Final Ghost Animal and La 3 at the piano concert the day before was finally taken out. Especially when the individual tracks of the 2 songs were sorted out and compared accurately, those who were interested in this matter finally knew how amazing it was. This terrifying fellow, the intonation of these 2 songs were actually extremely high. The difference between the notes were all below 0.05. This was too unbelievable. Alright, don't ask him how he did it, it was meaningless. Because the truth was that he did it. As for how he did it, there were too many people who wanted to ask him this question. There were too many things about him that could not be explained with common sense. For example, sharpening pencils, those videos of him racing, oh right, and throwing darts. Alright, in fact, when he played the Dota Tower, it was quite crazy to play the world alone. Oh right, didn't he participate in that so-called World Darts Championship? If I remember correctly, there are also videos of him throwing darts on his Weibo. Those videos also looked so strong that it made people's hair stand on end. A few days ago, the video of him participating in some arm wrestling competition overseas also became a hot topic along with this trend. Then there was one more incredible thing that happened to him. A Chinese man with thin arms and legs was actually able to pin those internationally famous strongmen on the table in an arm wrestling competition filled with monsters. Oh right, didn't he also play the role of a pilot 2 days ago and successfully crash-landed a fully loaded A320? How terrifying. In the hearts of the netizens, the accumulation of all these halos on Chen Guang was terrifying. How could he only know so many things? And as long as it was something he knew, there was nothing he couldn't do. List of brother all-rounder skills and achievements, what does he not know? This article compiled by the fans, from the moment it was published, it was crazily reposted on Weibo and other major media outlets. No one knew who the author of this article was, but it was obvious that the author had been paying attention to Chen Guang for a long time. He was very familiar with Chen Guang's history and used a narrative method to describe Chen Guang's achievements in various fields in great detail. The words were beautiful and the expression was clear. It was even more beautiful than the articles written by the insiders of Tianguang brokerage. When the influence of the article reached its peak, Tianguang brokerage also noticed this article and simply spent money to add fuel to the fire. Overnight, this unknown author named Chu Hihanji actually became a big media personality. His Weibo and WeChat fans both exceeded 100,000 within a day or two. The next morning, Chen Guang left early. It was time to return to school. He dressed neatly with a wig, a cap, a mask, and a pair of large sunglasses. He was fully armed and carefully went to the airport alone. "Sir, please take that thing off your head. This isn't good. I'm afraid something might happen." Chen Guang looked at the airport ground attendant who was smiling sweetly and felt that her request was a little difficult. The ground attendant's face turned serious. "I'm sorry, this is the rule. You're probably a famous person, right? But our airport security has security rules. This is the VIP passage, there won't be many people making a ruckus." The staff thought to herself, "I've worked at Beijing Airport for so many years and have seen many famous people. Why are you acting cool in front of me?" There had never been any special treatment in the airport security. It didn't matter who you were. Chen Guang was quite distressed. No, that's not what I meant. This isn't good. Look, this is my ID. Why don't you let me in directly?" The ground attendant's face turned serious. "Sorry. I don't have time to look at your ID. Your information is on the computer in front of me. But you still have to take off your hat. We don't do special treatment. Seriously, are you Wazai or Chow Chow? I don't even see you. You're just a small celebrity. What are you being so arrogant for? Hurry up and take off the sunglasses, mask, and writing for me. If not, I'll call for help." After saying that, she felt that her attitude was a little too bad. She retracted her words and controlled her emotions. I'm sorry, I might have said it a little too seriously. But the rules and regulations are here. I really can't do anything about it. Didn't an A320 crash overseas a few days ago? If not for our hero, it would have been a big problem. Recently, the higher-ups have been demanding of me. I've been working overtime for 7 to 8 hours. My attitude is a little bad. If I've offended you, please forgive me." Chen Guang sighed. All right. I'm sorry. I've just become famous and I'm not used to it. I have to abide by the rules and regulations of the airport." A fat man standing behind Chen Guang burst out laughing. "Bro, the security lady is right. The people here are all like me. They're not big or small, but they're also people of some status. They won't make a fuss like the youngsters. Come on, don't worry and take it. Look, there wasn't anyone queuing up at the VIP passage. Now that you're here, there are already 4 or 5 people queuing up. How embarrassing." Chen Guang also felt embarrassed and asked, "Then I'll take it." Take. Hurry up." Seeing that everyone was being so polite, the security lady urged again. Then she saw Chen Guang's face. Her mouth opened wider and wider. She was the first to scream. Ah! Chen Guang. Mr. Chen. Oh my God. Before Chen Guang could react, the beauty suddenly turned around and shouted at the top of her lungs, "Hey! Little Zhang. Little Qin. Sis Zhang. Quick, look who's here." Chen Guang. Oh my God. Chen Guang silently looked at this big sister who was jumping up and down. He thought to himself, didn't they say that a small celebrity was not qualified to be poor? Look at your reaction. Are you really not my old fangirl? You're Chen Guang. Oh my God. I'm Sima He from the China Music Association. Mr. Chen, can we talk? I have something very important to talk to you about. The fat man behind Chen Guang also came forward with a face full of enthusiasm. It was no wonder he couldn't keep his cool. In the past 2 days, especially after Lavin Hollander and the others publicly praised Chen Guang unreservedly on their social media accounts, the China Music Association quickly came to a consensus. They had to pull Chen Guang in as a registered member as soon as possible. It was a disgrace to the association to let the world's recognized best pianist wander among the common folk. This fat man was one of the few vice presidents. He also ran several music copyright operations and creative studios. He fought hard in the association to get the chance to represent the association to go to the 5 capitals to talk to Chen Guang. He never expected to meet someone at the airport. He was worried that he wouldn't be able to find him when he arrived in the 5 capitals. The heavens really had eyes. He was more excited than anyone else. His round face was as red as the rising sun. At this moment, Chen Guang felt that he couldn't even roll his eyes anymore. What happened to Su Tao's status? Didn't you say that you wouldn't be surprised? Bro, the air coming out of your mouth is almost spewing into my neck, okay? You bunch of liars. Half an hour later, Chen Guang sat in the shuttle bus under the reluctant gaze of many airport staff. He was really tired and sweating. His face was covered with lipstick marks. The enthusiastic air stewardesses could not stop him. He did not know who was the first to scream, "Chen Ingxiong." Then, they threw themselves at him and kissed him hard on the lips. But now, all the young and single air stewardesses started to follow him. In the beginning, Chen Guang felt embarrassed dodging them, but he soon realized that he couldn't avoid them at all. In the end, he could only stand on the spot and accept all of them. After the singles came up to have a taste of their mouths, it was not over. There were also those who were married, had children, and had boyfriends. Only a few people who were really reserved stood at the side and did not come up, but in the end, they still came over shyly. In fact, these air stewardesses did not mean that everyone wanted to throw themselves at him. It was just that what Chen Guang did was real and worthy of praise. He was a real hero. Besides, someone took the lead. Kissing him was not considered ambiguous. It was a reward for the hero in their hearts. Humans had the mentality of following the crowd. When many people did the same thing, others would also think, others have done it. If I don't do it, will I look like I don't fit in? Besides, this was a reward for the hero. So what if they kissed him? It was not like they would lose a piece of flesh. So, the result was that Chen Guang had a face full of lipstick marks. He really underestimated his position in the hearts of the people in the aviation industry. What is fanaticism? This is fanaticism. My poor airplane god statue, hurry up and come out. So many faith points have been lost. My heart hurts so much that I can't breathe. What he said wasn't wrong. People in the aviation industry were the most aware of the importance of aviation safety. Usually, pilots who successfully made a forced landing or saved other disasters would be widely praised and respected in the industry. Moreover, a layman like Chen Guang had done things that ordinary people could not do. In addition, Chen Guang's current reputation was also related to the hero image building plan under the protection of many old men. Recently, the senior management of the civil aviation industry had been attending his teacher Chen's lecture hall. They were eager to see him, and they had written about his glorious image in internal meetings and trainings. As a result, he was known by everyone in the domestic civil aviation industry. It was hard to say about the situation abroad, but at least in China, Chen Guang was probably the first real industry idol in the civil aviation industry after the founding of the People's Republic. It was not that there were no other pilots who had done something similar to him, but this was their job. They were not celebrities, and it was even more impossible for them to have a national publicity resource like Chen Guang. Chen Guang looked at the fellow flight attendants in the shuttle bus who were throwing flirtatious glances at him. He felt a chill in his heart. "Don't look at me like that. I'm so nervous. Mr. Chen, do you have time now? I really have something to talk to you about." Poor Sima He, he only managed to get a sentence to introduce himself. Chen Guang turned around. "I'm sorry, who are you?" Actually, Chen Guang remembered Su Tao because he purposely mocked Su Tao's earlier words. "Sorry, I'm a petty person." Sima He was embarrassed. He rubbed his hands. "I am the vice president of the Chinese Music Association. Actually, I went to Wujing this time to meet you." "What is it?" "Tell me." "I'll think about it. Long story short, I'm busy." At this moment, Chen Guang was really busy. For some reason, he felt that a certain flight attendant was trying to rub her butt against his thigh. "Beauty, do you really want to challenge the power of the strongest pile driver in history? You have to know that you're seeking your own death. Can you join the Chinese Music Association?" "I'm not free." "Sorry, I'm not interested. I don't want to play the piano in the future. It's boring." Sima He was dumbfounded. "Don't refuse so directly. If you have something to say, talk it out." Chen Guang's actions were too straightforward, so much so that Sima He couldn't recover from his shock. Poor Sima He. He wanted to represent his studio to sign a contract with Chen Guang. Later, his own publishing company would sell Chen Guang's solo piano album. In the end, he said that playing the piano was boring. "Brother, as the person who can play the piano the best on the planet, are you a man to say such words?" Chapter 767. Don't. Mr. Chen, with your current fame, how can you stop playing just like that? Do you know how many people in the world want to listen to your solo album? Sima He didn't care if he would disturb Chen Guang's sweet time. He decided to explain more about this man's potential in the market. He was afraid that Chen Guang wouldn't understand. Chen Guang nodded. "Of course I know. I might really consider releasing an album later, but what does that have to do with joining your association? Anyway, I don't think I'm satisfied with any association. I had a special reason for agreeing to join China's escort agency. If there wasn't a special reason, I wouldn't have considered joining your association." Sima He was at a loss. "Mr. Chen, let's talk this through. Whatever the escort association can give you, we can give you as well. I guarantee that we will not cause you any trouble, nor will we hold you responsible for anything." The car stopped beside the plane. The people in front were getting ready to alight. The air stewardess who had been rubbing against Chen Guang glared at Sima He. It was all this guy's fault for distracting Chen Guang. She had wasted all her effort. Chen Guang cupped his fists. "Mr. Sima He, hey. Please speak, Mr. Chen." "Excuse me. I'm getting out of the car. You're blocking the door." Chen Guang took 2 steps forward and turned back. "If you're really going to look for me in Wujing, I think you can go back now." "Oh yes, you can't give me what the escort agency can give me." "Nonsense. Where are you going to find another one like Enchanting? She's cute, good at fighting, and hardworking. Ahem, there's no ambiguity here. Enchanting is really hardworking. She's hardworking. Such a peerless Lolita, where are you going to find me another one? The escort agency even gave me their president, okay? Wait, there are two of them. I'm sorry, but the other one is Wu Miaowan. She's at my place now. Now that I think about it, I'm really a winner in life. The quality of having a mistress in my house is really good. In the end, Sima He didn't listen to Chen Guang and went back to Yanjin. Question: where are the civil aviation heroes most popular? Answer: on a long-distance flight. Chen Guang always had a feeling that if he was really a human-shaped self-propelled fighter jet, he could learn from other rich young masters to pick up girls and play with women. He could probably get at least one female confidant every time he took a flight. It wasn't that the stewardesses were indecent, but if you were single, it wouldn't be too much to exchange phone numbers, right? When you have time, let's have a meal together. That's not too much, right? Whether he was happy or not, he could spend some money to buy him a gift, a car, or something. Then, he could have a meal together. That wouldn't be too much, right? Why don't we go watch a movie after our second meal? After watching a movie in the dead of night, why not go to the Hilton Hotel to talk about life? With Chen Guang's reputation in the civil aviation industry and his financial resources, as long as he wanted to, he could probably turn into a walking fighting chicken at any time. Unfortunately, he had seen too many peerless beauties. Ordinary women really couldn't enter his eyes. Apart from that, the more famous a person was, the more they had to cherish their feathers. If he couldn't control his penis, the end result would be that he would be hung up on the wall if he was having a moment of fun and accidentally framed out. I'm not from Canada. Of course, with his current influence, if he really wanted to clear his name, it wasn't impossible. However, public opinion might be able to clear his name, but it would still leave a stain. More importantly, Chen Guang was afraid that he wouldn't be able to clear his name. Although the old man wasn't a decent person, this kind of thing had to be consensual. More importantly, it had to be someone he liked and understood. Therefore, Chen Guang accepted the stewardess's flirtatious glances. Especially the one who had started rubbing against him on the shuttle bus. She was also very daring. She had actually secretly stuffed a note under the paper cup while delivering the drinks. Mr. Chen, sigh, Chen Guang silently touched his forehead. He definitely didn't look at the almanac when he went out today. Sima He was actually sitting next to him. Sigh, Vice President Sima, what's the point of dragging me into this? I'm just a student now. It's just a coincidence that I know how to play the piano, but I really don't have any interest in music. Don't make things difficult for me, okay? Okay, I'm tired. I need to sleep. Vice President Sima, don't talk to me anymore. After saying that, he took out Doraemon's Kedai mask from his pocket and put it on. He slept too late last night, so it was time to catch up on some sleep. Sima He had no choice, but he definitely wouldn't admit defeat so easily. The big words he had once said were still vivid in his mind, but now the slap on his face was so loud that it made his heart feel bitter. Mr. Chen, then I won't talk to you about joining the association for now. Are you really interested in considering publishing a solo album? Even though the sales of CDs have declined, but the market for electronic albums, especially those with lossless sound quality, is gradually rising. In the future, there will be a lot of possibilities for the copyright of your music. Chen Guang took off his eye mask and looked at him. That's a really good idea. Sima He's eyes lit up. It's not that I'm bragging, but in the field of music publishing, I know a major shareholder of Hua Dai. Thank you for your good intentions. This Chen Guang really wasn't bragging. Previously, he had a meal with a young man in the youth hall of Yan Jing's mansion. He was the #1 major shareholder of Hua Dai in the country. At the very least, he could find Lu Chao. His Lu Shi culture was also a strong point in this area. How could he, a new acquaintance, pick up my fat meat? This time, Sima He was really completely wiped out. Oh, why does my heart hurt so much? This wasn't the end, because he had forced Chen Guang to sleep. On the way, he had received quite a few supercilious looks from the air stewardesses. It's all because of you, damn fatty, that we don't even have a chance to get an autograph from Chen Guang. After arriving at Wujing without any incident, Chen Guang went straight to the airport and drove his phaeton. He had asked someone from his company to leave the phaeton at the airport. Originally, Yu Hong said that he would get someone to pick him up, but Chen Guang hadn't driven for a long time, so he wanted to drive himself. He wasn't in a hurry to go to Tianguang Agency. Instead, he went straight back to school. When he arrived at school, it was already past the registration time. But it didn't matter, he could still register in the administration building. However, there was a small interlude. He met an old acquaintance in the administration building. That's right, it was Zheng He. The two of them walked up the ramp in front of the administration building, one on the left and one on the right. Zheng He saw him from afar and was stunned for 2 to 3 seconds. Then, he turned around and walked away without looking back. In just a few months, Chen Guang had turned from a loser that he could bully at will to China's #1 online celebrity. It was fine if he was an online celebrity. To him, the young master of New Radiance Group, it wasn't a big deal. However, the strength and connections that Chen Guang had displayed in public time and time again had gradually surpassed Zheng He's understanding. Although Zheng He didn't have the right to know too deep secrets with his status, he knew that he couldn't continue to provoke Chen Guang for no reason from what his father had told him. It wasn't a deep matter. Back when Chen Guang established Tianguang Agency, Lu Chao didn't want to be his enemy, so he sold Zhu away without hesitation. He even completely destroyed 8 Weekly, a media company that was rather influential in the industry. Lu Chao and his father were at the same level. Even the elders didn't want to offend him. No matter how unhappy Zheng He was, he could only pinch his nose and admit defeat. Looking at it now, the small fights he had in the past were really a joke. If he really wanted to deal with him, it couldn't be the same as before. Either he didn't make a move, or if he wanted to, he had to be ruthless. He might not even know who was looking for trouble with him even after he died. Zheng He's face was gloomy as he walked faster and faster. This guy must be feeling smug now. He didn't guess wrong. Chen Guang was really feeling smug now. This guy used to act like a tyrant in front of him because he was rich and powerful. Although he didn't take advantage of him, and he was the one who taught him a lesson, he was still a little unhappy when he thought back to the past. When he saw Zheng He just now, he actually hoped that this guy would continue to jump at him. That way, he would have a reason to beat him up. Unfortunately, Zheng He wasn't stupid. He knew that he couldn't afford to offend him, so he turned around and ran as fast as he could like a frightened rabbit. Chen Guang shrugged his shoulders. This was human nature. It was a joke to bully the weak and fear the strong. After completing the registration, Chen Guang had nothing to do for a while, so he returned to the dormitory. Although he couldn't live in school because he wanted to practice martial arts and could only live alone in the small district outside, since he was back, he had to say hello to his brothers in the dormitory. Otherwise, those scumbags would keep repeating the phrase, "Don't forget each other when you're rich," for a whole year. By the way, his 2 right-hand men, Xian Qin and Wu Miaowan, had already moved into the city. The 2 deputy directors had directly filled their pockets and asked for a 3-bedroom apartment in the new office building of the Guangdong General Administration. The 2 of them claimed that they ate, lived, and worked in the unit, proving that they were hard-working, unlike a certain director who was nowhere to be seen all day long. Sitting in a position without doing anything, no one dared to admit that they were second. In response to the 2's ridicule, Chen Guangju felt that they had no conscience. They didn't know how much effort their director had put in for the country. How dare they say that I'm sitting in a position without doing anything? How inhumane. By the way, these 2 despicable fellows didn't even pay the rent. After settling the matter, Chen Guang put on a full disguise again. Sigh, there was no other way. Now that he was so popular, and he was still in school, he reckoned that he would have to receive guests every day. However, he had just returned today, so he might as well save some energy. When he stayed in school for a long time, people would not always be so interested in him. Besides, when the pilot statue was erected, Chen Guang would also lay low for a period of time. At the very least, he had to train all the muscles in his body, master inner force, and cure all the problems of being a martial artist. Only then would he consider the next step of getting the statue and faith. Celebrities were like this. They were popular all day long, but after a long period of silence, they would quickly be metabolized. As soon as he entered the dormitory, Bai Nyangzi pounced on him, wailing, "Help, my brother! What's wrong? Did you cook for someone? You're crying to the heavens." Chen Guang stared. Bai Nyangzi's snot and tears were smeared on him. "I can't take it anymore, my brother. I'm done for. My book Overbearing President, Please Love Me 1001 Times is a flop. Hurry up and use your Weibo to repost it for me." Chen Guang took a step back and sent a ruthless kick flying towards this bastard. "Scram. Don't talk about your stupid book anymore. I only read the first chapter and I'm so disgusted that I can't eat for a week." Chapter 768. Bai Nyangzi pounced on him again. "Bro, I'm begging you. I've been running around naked ever since I got published. I haven't received a single cent from any recommendation. I even dressed up as a girl to seduce my editor. Guess what happened?" Chen Guang's curiosity was piqued. "What happened?" "My editor is also a girl. Seduction didn't work. I'm so angry." Chen Guang rolled his eyes. "Isn't that obvious? You're writing a female-oriented novel. Isn't it normal for your editor to be a girl? So I quickly changed back into men's clothing. Guess what happened next?" Chen Guang silently clenched his fist. "I suggest you say everything in one go." Bai Nyangzi shed 2 lines of regretful tears. "My editor said that she likes girls and hates guys. She hates guys who dress up as a girl. I'm done for. I'm done for. I must have offended her. I'm being targeted." Chen Guang was speechless at this guy who had no self-awareness. "Targeted your sister? You wrote so badly. Who could bear to read it? The subscriptions were all over the place. Even if I'm the editor, I won't promote it for you. The last time I organized an event to help you promote it, I was scolded badly on Weibo. They said that I poisoned you." Bai Nyangzi waved his hand angrily. "Impossible. I wrote it so seriously. This is definitely a modern dream of the Red Chamber. To be honest, I'm begging you. I've never begged you for anything." Chen Guang started counting with his fingers as he continued. "Last semester, you begged me to bring you food, begged me to play games with you, begged me to bring you to the set, begged me to. Fine, it's too many. I can't even count them all, but you said that you didn't beg me for anything. Sigh. There's really no meaning in living." Blue Skinny, Mushroom, this guy was not pretending this time. He was really crying. All right. Do you think I'm afraid of you?" Looking at his heartbroken appearance, Chen Guang's heart softened. "You really have 8 lifetimes worth of dog sh*t luck to bump into me. Usually, when people offer me hundreds of thousands of dollars to advertise, I don't accept it. You're the only one." Bai Fan took advantage of the situation and said, "Brother Guang, you're the boss in our dormitory. You have to take care of your little brothers. Don't worry, I will remember your kindness forever, okay? I know your advertisement is expensive, Brother Guang, but when my book becomes popular, hundreds of thousands of yuan will be a piece of cake. You don't know how powerful those gods are." All right, stop. Stop right there." Chen Guang found a towel from the side and stuffed it into the guy's mouth, blocking his mouth. 10 minutes later, Almighty Superman updated his Weibo with a new message. High energy warning ahead. High energy warning. The most irresponsible novel recommendation in history has appeared. Yes, that's right. You're not mistaken. I'm Chen Guang, recommending an unparalleled novel, Overbearing CEO, Please love me 1,001 times. Guaranteed to be ugly, melodramatic, and retarded. You'll ascend to heaven in minutes. You'll be poisoned after reading the first chapter, terminally ill after reading the second chapter, even gods can't save you after reading the third chapter, and ghosts will worry after reading the fourth chapter. If you can get to the VIP chapter, then congratulations. You've joined the luxurious lunch of human tragedy. Remember to be a good person in your next life. By fan watched Chen Guang's shocking advertisement. Brother Guang, are you a real man? Chen Guang patted his shoulder. Young man, you don't understand. The more I scare people, the more curious they will be. Believe me, you're right. Bai Nyangzi looked at Dong Xuebing suspiciously, but he had no choice but to go to his author's platform to look at the data. If she hadn't seen it, she wouldn't have known. But when she saw it, she was startled. After a while, Lady White jumped up from her chair. It's gone up. Chen Guang curled his lips. How can it not increase? The old man is a high-end internet celebrity with more than 20 million fans. My Weibo post is more powerful than your website's big push, and this grandson is still doubting my power. Chen Guang did not have time to stay in the dormitory to watch Bai Nyangzi happily. He got up and walked out with Lin Jingwei. Brother Guang, what are you going to do next? What do you mean? What are you referring to, little Lin? Lin Jingwei looked in the direction of the female dormitory, hinting at something. Chen Guang sighed. I don't know what to do. I didn't plan to see Sun Xiaoxuan when I went to America, but then I encountered that incident. I can't just turn a blind eye, and in the end, she's always like that, and I don't know how to deal with her. Lin Jingwei sighed. Since ancient times, heroes have always had a weakness for beauties. F***CKU. I'm not a hero, and I don't want to be one. Of course, if you really want to say that I am, then it can only be that the times make the hero. I was forced to go all the way, and I had no choice. Lin Jingwei chuckled. I understand the logic. But life is F***ed up, and there are many things that don't make sense. Oh right, you can't stay in the dormitory anymore, right? Lin Jingwei asked. Just as the two chatted for a while, many of the guys from the same dormitory building ran over to ask for autographs from Chen Guang. Although he couldn't remember many of their names, everyone had lived in the same dormitory building for 3 years, and most of them were familiar faces. Chen Guang couldn't refuse them, so he signed all of them without stopping. The outside of the building surrounded by the dormitory was also crowded with people. There were men and women, but most of them were girls, and they all looked delicious. The dormitory manager was struggling to fight against 100 people, and she was working very hard. The price that Chen Guang paid was to give her son, nephew, and other relatives 10 autographs. Looking at the sea of people downstairs, Chen Guang nodded and said, I really can't stay here, sigh. Why are you sighing? Isn't it good to be famous? Lin Jingwei teased. Chen Guang looked back at him. Do I look like someone who likes to be famous? Lin Jingwei thought for a moment. I think you actually prefer to make a fortune in silence. That's it. I'm also in the pugilistic world, and I can't help myself. Chen Guang didn't have much choice. If he wanted to collect more faith points, he had to move from being a recluse behind the scenes to the front. He couldn't have every ability like the masked racing god and create a separate identity. First, it was very troublesome. There was no wall in the world that didn't have a crack. If he often walked by the river, his shoes would definitely get wet. On the other hand, only when he stood out completely could his many identities be integrated into one, and the fame brought by the many skills he mastered could form a chain effect. For example, if someone liked the piano and was also very interested in darts, they would first get to know him because of the piano, and then later find out that his darts were also so powerful, they would worship him. Then, they would continue to look at his Weibo and find out that his driving was also very good. Perhaps, it should be about the most amazing person in the world? Then, the same person would provide him with multiple shares of faith points. In addition, this person would also have friends, and they would introduce Chen Guang to their friends. In this way, the number of faith points would naturally increase, just like a pyramid scheme. This was the chain effect that Chen Guang wanted to pursue. Until now, after the Xiangjiang car gambling competition, he hadn't participated in any official public racing competition, but his racing god training ground faith points had been slowly increasing. The other few skills that had reached the full value of the world in a cup, after the strength of the deer fruit skyrocketed, could still keep up with the pace of the deer fruit, which was also related to the chain effect of Chen Guang. Recently, the reputation that he had created on the internet had never declined. It could be said that it had reached a peak. No matter what skill it was, as long as he used it, it would immediately attract the attention of the most people. Therefore, whether he wanted to be famous or not, he could only pinch his nose and accept it. Fortunately, the downside of being famous was losing some of his freedom, but there were also many benefits. For example, Jing He's terrified expression when he first saw him, and now that his net worth had skyrocketed, oh right, there were also the countless female fans in his Weibo private messages that he couldn't even keep up with his eyes. Ahem, the Buddhist said, can't say. He called his roommates, Sun Xiaoshuan and Gaoya, and went out to eat teppanyaki outside the school. Then, Chen Guang said goodbye to everyone and returned to his rented apartment. In the past, when Xian Qin and Wu Miaowan were both here, he often despised the noise and the people who liked to peep at him, leaving him with no personal space and free time. But suddenly coming back here, the two girls were gone, and it was really hard to bear the loneliness. Chen Guang didn't want to admit that he was actually a person who was afraid of loneliness. Whether he became Liuli's savior or became the famous person he was today, it seemed that he had never separated himself from his past self. To put it nicely, he didn't forget his original intentions. To put it bluntly, he was born with a life of hanging by a thread. Even if he became powerful and powerful, he would still be a loser with power and power. It didn't matter. He spread his hands. So be it. There's nothing bad about being a loser. Sigh, it's just a room for one person. It's so empty, lonely, and cold. An empty room, an empty heart. I feel so empty, like the sky has turned gray. If a beautiful loli came to massage my back, legs, and shoulders, it'd be best if she wore less clothes, and it'd be best if she accidentally revealed a bit of her chest. That would be too blissful. Ah. I really, really miss it. Lord Chrysanthemum Head, based on my understanding of you, you should be thinking about very perverted things right now. Suddenly, Xian Qin's voice came from behind Chen Guang's head, who was leaning on the sofa. Chen Guang sat up straight. How did you know? Xian Qin rolled her eyes. Lord Chrysanthemum Head, your pants are already torn, how can I not know? Am I blind? Really, you're too good at making things up. A few days ago, you went to the Wenzong Pavilion to help your Wenwen suppress the demon, and today you can't hold it in anymore? You'll die of perverted behavior sooner or later. Chen Guang was about to quibble, but Xian Qin curled her lips. Shut up, I know you better than the roundworm in your stomach. Your explanation is equivalent to covering up. This loli's mouth was becoming more and more poisonous. Master Guang was already so old, but he was really speechless. Who asked him to be caught red-handed by her? Chapter 769. Didn't you and Xiao Miao Miao move to the city? Why did you come back alone? Chen Guang silently reached his hand into his pocket and pushed that metal fellow over. Xian Qin went directly into the kitchen, took out the meat and vegetables from the bag in her hand, and put them into the fridge. If I told you that I was worried that you would starve yourself to death at home, would you believe me? Chen Guang was shocked. This girl was really a roundworm in his stomach. She could even think of this? So considerate? The venomous-tongued loli's hidden attribute was considerate. Look at how beautiful you are. Chen Guang asked in disbelief, really? Xian Qin shrugged. I even bought the vegetables for you. Do I look like I'm joking? What about Xiao Miao Miao? Why didn't she come? Yo, you're looking forward to what's in the pot when you're eating from the bowl? Chen Guang tried to explain. How can that be? Aren't you two inseparable? Xian Qin shrugged. Alright, Xiao Miao Miao's master came. She's staying with her master. She said she wanted to give her some training. She didn't let me learn, so I chased her out. It's that simple. So you were chased out. What else? Do you think I'm that good? Sigh. Oh right, my master came to Wujing too. What for? During the military exercise, Chen Guang had once seen that indifferent abbess. She was hugging her sword with a stern face, as if everyone owed her a few $1,000,000. She looked exactly like an abbess that walked out of a television drama. She was simply terrifying. When he heard that Abbess Miju was coming, he subconsciously panicked. Xian Qin shrugged. Didn't you say you wanted Xuelin to set up a special task force? We were thinking of finding 2 experts from the bureau to handle the situation. But when our master heard it, she insisted on going. Xiao Miao Miao and I couldn't stop her. Sigh. Chen Guang heaved a sigh of relief. Oh, that's good. What's good about that? It's nothing. This is our first operation since the establishment of the General Directorate of Light. It's only right to be cautious. With the 2 elders here, I feel more at ease. How could he openly admit to Xian Qin that his guilty conscience was because he wanted to eat her? Oh, right. Recently, about 50 to 60 sects have announced their intention to join the Guangding General Directorate. In addition, there are nearly 1,000 former employees of the Special Affairs Bureau from all over the country who have gradually joined our Guangding General Directorate. This is the latest personnel list from the headquarters. Take a look. There's no need for that. You just need to take a look and make sure there's no problem. As the director, how could he manage everything? The director didn't have time for such a small matter. Xian Qin continued, among the dozens of sects that have declared their allegiance to the Guangding General Headquarters, other than the Thousand Extremities sect and Thousand Flowers Valley that Xiao Miao Miao and I belong to, there are a few other purely female sections. There are photos attached to this list. The personnel screening is related to the country's plans. It can't be taken lightly. Give me the name list quickly. I want to check it carefully. After quickly looking through the name list, Chen Guang had a strong anticipation for his life as the director. It was no joke. When these purely female sects chose their disciples, did they all look at their looks? Look at these girls' noses, eyes, and cherry lips. They were all so beautiful that it made people salivate. Forget about it. Tomorrow, I'll skip school and go to work. My womanland is waving at me. Xian Qin looked at his fascinated expression and said with a sinister smile, oh, right. I forgot to tell you. I don't know who started the limelight when they registered their photos, but they all used a level 10 beauty camera. Also, there's a person called Chu Hanji in the unit who photoshopped them. Chen Guang threw the name list on the table and turned back to the bedroom. Goodbye. Seriously, you're not worthy of your title as martial arts practitioners. You're even worse than those internet celebrities. Level 10 beauty cameras and Photoshop them. Can't you let people live happily in womanland? Also, little Chu, you're a sweeping monk. Why did you Photoshop people's photos? How dare you hide such important news from me? Unforgivable. Alright, let's not talk about these things for now. After reading the detailed planning report of the Shattered World Task Force, Chen Guang was quite satisfied with Xian Qin and Wu Miaowan's work efficiency. As the director, he had only proposed an idea. However, when it came to the actual implementation, it was not something that could be solved with just a few words. Apart from summoning Xuelin, who had been in contact with the Shattered World for a long time and had been living abroad, and appointing her as the team leader of the task force, he also had to appoint the sword-wielding nun and the beautiful woman as the 2 deputy team leaders. In addition, he had to add 20 former elite employees from the Special Affairs Bureau and 30 special agents from the Security Bureau to the task force. This could be said to be the most luxurious task force since the founding of the country. It could almost start a small-scale war. Using them to deal with the shattered world was not an exaggeration. Now that everything was ready, they just had to wait for Shui Lin to arrive in the country. Hello everyone, I'm Chen Guang. Yesterday, we talked about how I operated after I came down from the clouds. I was so nervous. At 10:00 sharp, the new Mr. Chen's lecture continued on time. Yesterday, there were about a few hundred people in the international chat room. After a day, when Chen Guang entered, he was shocked when he saw the number of people online. More than 14,000 people. What the heck, free training is really popular, huh? If I knew there would be so many people, I would have charged entrance fees. $10,000 per person isn't too much, right? Fine, maybe that's a bit too much. $1,000 is very reasonable for someone of my level. Forget it, I'm a hero in these people's hearts. I should pay more attention to my image. On account of the flight attendant who kept rubbing her butt against me on the plane today, I should pay more attention to my image. This lesson was once again about the moment before he was about to land. Everyone, today's class ends here. When you go back, you must study hard and complete your homework. Mr. Chen, you didn't give us homework. Oh, it seems so. By the way, in the next class, I will tell you why I can be sure that the 6 deceleration wheels will explode during the landing and that we will stop at a position of 2,950 meters. This is also the part where I have to calculate the most during the entire process of the emergency landing. You can also think about it carefully. Everyone is an experienced pilot. You should know the factors that need to be considered during an emergency landing as well as I do. Mr. Chen, we're pilots, not experienced pilots. Don't worry about the details. Pilots are also drivers. If I say so, then so be it. Chen Guang's lecture came to an end in such a harmonious atmosphere. Compared to yesterday, Chen Guang mixed in more aerial combat skills today. After all, he was more and more familiar with this kind of thing. However, there was one thing that he was particularly concerned about. He always had a feeling that the pilot statue could jump out of Cloud City in the next moment, but there was no movement, and it was just a little bit short. He had no idea what was going on. Before this, he had already created 7 statues of gods and had a wealth of experience in showing off. Based on his past experience, the 14,000 people who appeared in the chat room today definitely included most of the technical backbones or top pilots in the global aerospace industry. Coupled with the private goods he sold yesterday, there should be quite a number of people from the military as well. Considering the happy treatment in Yanjing civil aviation today, he should have been widely recognized by the entire industry, but why didn't the statue come out? Chen Guang didn't know that at this time in Cloud City of the Heavenly Holy Grail, Lu Li and Lu Ming were also having a headache because of this problem for 2 whole days. The 2 great existences in the endless heavenly realm who had a lifespan of 10 billion years were having a heated discussion about this matter. Lu Ming, why do you think this is? Sister Lu Li, why? Strange. Confused. Confused with a capital word. Sister Lu Li, when did you learn to be confused? I probably learned it from watching Blizzard comics some time ago. The discussion between the 2 gods was really intense. Well, you too, maybe I have a good suggestion. At this moment, Nicosia Tepister, whose soul had been trapped in the Holy Grail, spoke pitifully. Chapter 770. When Azure and Deer Cry heard Nixie's weak words, they both turned their heads to look at the void. Nixie, who was in the void, could not even sense her own body, but being stared at by the 2 god kings made her feel an inexplicable chill all over her body. Well, actually, I've been trying to figure out the mysteries of this space recently, and now I've finally made some progress. As expected of Frankenstein, Nixie. Even in such a terrible situation, she still did not forget the spirit of scientific research. In a sense, she might have profited from a disaster, because in this void, she had lost her physical body but obtained an almost eternal soul, as well as a logical thinking ability that ordinary people could not reach. In this place, her photographic memory was displayed to the extreme. Her own soul seemed to have transformed into a computer that would never lose data. What do you think? Speak. Azure also became serious. As expected of a soul with the mechanical heart, it seemed to be very useful. Nixie pondered for a moment, then said, "In my judgment, the reason why the 8th statue that you want hasn't appeared yet is because..." Azure and Deercry's expressions immediately tensed up, and they said in unison, "Because of what?" The two deities couldn't be blamed for placing their hopes on Nicole. Although Lazuli could control the sky-soaring Holy Grail to a certain degree, the sky-soaring Holy Grail was basically an experimental product. Since Chen Guang was a lab rat, wasn't she the same as well? There were many things and changes in this Holy Grail that were also beyond her understanding. For example, when the 7 statues mysteriously disappeared, Azure and Deercry were also at a loss, and in the end, they even ended up in the awkward situation of their souls fusing into the Holy Grail. Nixie said, "Two great goddesses. I've been sent into that mysterious realm many times, and I've turned into some strange tools. I want to ask, is the reason for the existence of this magical space to train Chen Guang? Although I hate Chen Guang very much, I also understand that this is my fate, and I can't resist it." Lu Mingguo grunted, "You lowly soul, you're quite smart. It's like this. Then, the statue you want, the meaning of its existence should be something symbolic when Chen Guang achieves a certain realm or achievement, right?" This time, it was Liuli's turn to answer her. "Yes. Then, is it possible that there is some kind of connection between the statues? Because the previous 7 statues disappeared, the 8th statue, which should have appeared like dominoes, failed to appear due to the lack of traction?" Nixie said tentatively. Luli was a little impatient. "What you said is all within my guess, it's useless. If I know more about the principles of divine power, I might be able to use modern scientific methods to calculate the formula, and maybe I can find the real reason." Nicole finally revealed her foxtail. Lioli sneered, "Interesting, you have quite an idea, but I don't think highly of you. In the endless God realm, there are countless people who are thousands of times more knowledgeable than you. Your so-called modern science is nothing in the endless God realm, it's just that Lu Mingguo reminded, cough cough, Sister Lioli, you actually don't have to say that you're ignorant and incompetent." Lioli blushed, "Shut up. Lu Mingguo. Besides, this girl called Nixie, this emperor knows what you're thinking in your heart. You can't hide any of your thoughts from me. You'd better obediently accept your fate. Even if you know what divine power is, it's meaningless, and it's impossible for you to grasp divine power. Unless what?" Nixie was overjoyed. Lu Mingguo teased, "Unless the owner of the heavenly Holy Grail is willing to give you a chance of survival, otherwise, you can stop dreaming. Not everyone has fortuitous encounters, your fate is a tool." Nixie fell into a dejected silence. Lioli and Lu Mingguo shrugged, but they still didn't understand why. Since he woke up early in the morning, Chen Guang had been feeling uneasy. He didn't know why either. Ever since he got the heavenly Holy Grail, he hadn't felt this way for a long time. In a sense, he should be the most special existence in this world, possessing the heavenly Holy Grail and the Emperor of the Azure as his backer. He really shouldn't have this inexplicable sense of crisis. No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't find the source of this sense of crisis. For the whole day, he first received the second batch of medicinal herbs from Wenwen at home, which almost filled the entire living room. He had no choice but to put all the medicinal herbs in Zhuo Jingxi's house, which had always been empty anyway. After that, he went to the new office of the Guangding General Headquarters and saw a few female martial artists who were swindling online. Alright, there was no reason for all the girls who practiced martial arts to be so beautiful. Most of them were tall and sturdy, or they were old aunties like sword-wielding nuns. His plan of a female country was stillborn. After that, he finally met Xue Lin, who had rushed to the 5 capitals. He hadn't seen his only disciple for a long time, and he was able to come back alive, which made Chen Guang feel a lot of emotions. His skin had turned darker, and he wasn't as handsome as before. There were more scars on his face, and his physique had also become thinner. However, his strength had increased instead. Although he still couldn't compare to Chen Guang, he was still more powerful than ordinary people. Shui Lin's progress showed a principle. When a person's spirit was strong to a certain extent, the body could break through the innate shackles. Greetings, instructor. Shui Lin stood straight in Chen Guang's office, and there was a trembling tone in his voice, which showed how excited he was. Chen Guang looked at the light green thread of faith value surging out of his head and was satisfied. This was his only fanatic. He was his only child, so he had to cherish him. Chen Guang moved forward in a friendly manner and asked, "You've had a hard time recently, haven't you?" Shui Lin was stunned at first. He subconsciously felt that Chen Guang had become a little different after not seeing him for a period of time. How should he put it? In the past, although he was strong, in front of a special forces elite like Shui Lin, he had always been as immature as a student. Now, Mr. Chen's face didn't change at all, and he even looked a little funny because of his bald head, but strangely, he seemed more imposing. Shui Lin was puzzled, but he bowed his head even more respectfully. "Fortunately, I didn't let you down, instructor. It's because of me that Shattered World caused trouble for you, instructor." "I'm sorry." Chen Guang waved his hand. "It's no big deal. It's just a small problem. This time, I asked you to set up a task force to solve it once and for all. You can rest assured. With the help of the sect masters of the Thousand Despair sect and Thousand Flower Valley, and I'll give you the latest weapons, you can crush them in minutes, okay?" Shui Lin became even more excited. "Thank you, Mr. Chen." After sending Shui Lin off, the sword-wielding nun and the beautiful woman left with him. Since they were going to take action, they had to be swift and decisive. That afternoon, the task force of Shattered World would set off from the 5 capital and head to the neighboring Mount Baylor. The base of Shattered World was in the neighboring Mount Baylor. Of course, this was what Chen Guang had heard from the native Ramra language. After sending off this group of people, Chen Guang rushed to the Tianguang agency and met with Yang Shi, who had followed him here. Poor Yang Shi was actually quite embarrassed. He didn't know why he had come all the way to the 5 capital. With Chen Guang's acting skills, he didn't need any pointers. The evil big beard Deng was really out of his mind. Even Chen Guang's glorious record of shooting 12 commercials in one day couldn't convince him. This old man still didn't believe it and insisted that the commercials couldn't represent an actor's true ability. He insisted that Yang Shi come over to give Chen Guang intensive training. Chen Guang patted Yang Shi's shoulder, who looked aggrieved. Let him go to Zhuhai on his own. Speaking of which, Chen Guang's recent commercials had started to be released on all the major media outlets in the country. Inexplicably, it had increased his reputation. Although this reputation seemed to be of no use for now, it would become his trump card in the future. The greater the reputation, the easier it would be to reach the maximum value after the new idol was erected. After a busy day, Chen Guang returned to school in the evening. It couldn't be helped. The new counselor didn't know him as well as Zhuo Jingxi did. It was actually quite difficult for the new counselor to deal with this international talent, who had missed several compulsory courses at the end of last year. The grades of the compulsory courses were related to graduation, so it was better to call him over for a discussion. Where's Chen Guang?" The young counselor sat in the office chair. He was even more nervous than Chen Guang when he spoke. Chen Guang sat on the stool next to him and replied with a smile, "Hey, Mr. Ding, don't be nervous." Xiao Ding scratched his head awkwardly. "I can't not be nervous. To tell you the truth, I also play Dota. I'm your fan. That's a good relationship." "I didn't expect Mr. Ding to be a kindred spirit." Comrade Xiao Ding chuckled. "I've played for many years. I used to play on Haofang. Back then, my level was okay. But now that I'm old, I only have about 2,000 points on the ladder. I play when I'm free. I can't compare to you. Chen Guang agreed. Those who really like Dota are good people. It's fine as long as you're happy playing the game. You don't have to play to perfection. It's just a game, that's how it is. Oh right, Chen Guang, what are your plans for this semester? Although you're a celebrity now, the school has rules and regulations. There are many people watching you. I'm afraid you'll have to face them head on. Of course, if you want to play some tricks, I can help you talk to the school. The school leaders might agree, but I'm worried that if it gets out, it will have a negative impact on your reputation. Because of the game, Mr. Ding and Chen Guang chatted for a while. They gradually became less nervous and started talking about business. Chen Guang waved his hand nonchalantly. There's no need to play some dirty tricks. I can pass. What a joke. The old man was famous for pressing the line. He was the king of rushing for exams. He was the king of 60 points. Although these 3 years of university were quite entertaining, he didn't fail any subjects. Well, except for the CET-4 exam. Since you're confident, I won't say anything more. But I still think that fame is fleeting. No matter how famous a celebrity was in the past, aren't there some who are living a hard life now? So, no matter if you're studying or becoming a celebrity, you have to learn as long as you live. You have to be strong to forge iron. The level of your cultural studies will have a long-term impact on your life. I'm relieved that you can think this way. You've been in university for 3 years. If you were in your first year, I would suggest that you take a leave of absence. But now that you're only in your last year, you have to grit your teeth and get through it. Chen Guang nodded. Thank you for the reminder, Mr. Ding. I'll be careful. It was about 9 o'clock at night when he returned to the neighborhood outside the university. Enchanting was practicing yoga in the living room on the TV. To be honest, the difference between the Indian yoga and the external martial arts she learned in the Thousand Extremities sect was huge. However, she did not know who had boasted to her that practicing yoga could enhance her breasts, but she actually believed it. Chen Guang felt tired when he saw a beautiful loli in tight clothes moving around in the living room gracefully. Chen Guang squatted in front of her and stared straight ahead. Well, Enchanting, let's discuss something. Enchanting was lying face down on the yoga mat. She bent her legs from the back and formed a C shape with her legs resting on both sides of her head. It was her flexibility that allowed her to perform such difficult movements when she had just started learning yoga. In a sense, her current posture was somewhat indescribable. Especially this little girl. She really did not know how to behave. She was wearing such tight clothes that it was indecent to look at her. This evil camel toe actually used such a shameful posture to face me. You shameless loli, I must use my scrutinizing eyes to ruthlessly criticize you. Enchanting raised her head slightly to look at Chen Guang. Due to her awkward posture, she could not lift her head high enough. She could only see Chen Guang's crotch when she looked straight ahead. Shut up. You perverted old man, I know what you're thinking. Chen Guang swallowed his saliva silently. I heard that it's better not to wear tight clothes when practicing yoga. It won't be effective. Enchanting believed him. Should I wear loose clothes? Chen Guang shook his head. No, real yoga allows the practitioner's skin to be in direct contact with the Reiki of heaven and earth. During the exercise, the practitioner adjusts his breathing and state of mind. Every pore on the body opens, and there is no barrier to communicate with nature. Only this kind of yoga is real yoga. Enchanting looked at this guy's increasingly bulging crotch. Although I'm not well educated, you can't lie to me like this. Bah. And every pore is open. You're so wretched. Don't you want me to not wear it? Well, fine. Pretend I didn't say anything. Unexpectedly, Enchanting suddenly said loudly, sure. As she said that, she naughtily opened and closed her legs. Chen Guang covered his nose. He could not take it anymore. His nose was about to bleed. I can't believe that my knowledgeable master, who is also half a man living with women, was actually teased by a little girl to the point of excessive nutrition. This is not scientific. If she had not admitted that she was an adult, Chen Guang really wanted to turn himself into Wu Tong. Really? Do you want me to leave first? Or do you want to take it off directly? Chen Guang thought silently. It's not that I'm not determined, but the enemy's temptation is too strong. I can, but, the first chapter of the painting volume, goodbye. Chapter 771. Chen Guang turned around and went back to his bedroom. Damn it. I eat my food, live my life, and spend my money. What's wrong with looking at a camel toe? It's not like I'll lose anything. So stingy. You actually have the face to mention the painting scroll to me? If it was someone else, I'd hang them up and beat them for 3 days for daring to covet the old man's divine power. I'd also have to buy 17 or 18 red candles and drip the hot wax on their little butt as if it was free. I'd also have to find hemp rope. Take it. Take it for me. Damn it, I must have been controlled by a devil recently. I can't believe my thoughts diverged in such a perverted direction. I'm a righteous person. It's all Xian Qin's fault for leading me into the ditch. That's right, it's like this. I wanted to teach you how to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. You actually think of me as such a shameless person. Am I such a despicable person? The painting scroll is the treasure of the Wenwen family. Wenwen trusted me, so she gave it to me. You want to get the painting scroll with just a camel toe? Dream on. Am I that easily swayed? Are you kidding me? Even I'm scared of myself when my willpower is strong enough. He turned around and the pile driver hit the leg of the table. Bang! The table shook violently and the leg almost broke. Chen Guang silently sat back on the chair. Let me chant the great compassion mantra to calm myself first. Although my body betrayed me, my soul is still pure. He returned to the computer. Today was the last lecture of Mr. Chen's lecture. The number of viewers in the chat room had reached a terrifying 40,000 people. I heard that to ensure stability, the top 10 airlines in the world even invested tens of millions of dollars to upgrade this casual chat room. They built a separate server. It could be seen how important Chen Guang's lecture was. Before the lecture officially started, Chen Guang was nervous for a few seconds. Whether he could complete the pilot's statue depended on today. He took a deep breath and got to work. 3 hours later, Chen Guang tapped the table lightly and said in an impassioned tone, "Everyone, I'll stop talking about the technical essentials I used during the forced landing. If you have any other questions in the future, you can talk to me in private. I have always been a helpful person. Everyone should know that I am very busy, but I will try my best to satisfy you when the time comes. This kind of public class, I'll be the good guy today and give it to you for free. But if you want more, you can find me in private. Please prepare the money. Thank you, Mr. Chen. You have been a great help. On behalf of the International Civil Aviation Association, we thank you for your contributions. After a unanimous discussion, we believe that you should be awarded a second medal. You are not only the hero of the aerospace industry, but you have also led the technological progress of the entire aerospace industry. Your contributions will benefit all of mankind. Chen Guang listened to the praises in the chat room. He did not know which company's boss was praising him. Sigh, to be honest, as long as I have a hero medal that allows me to fly for free and always fly first class, that's enough. No matter how many other medals you give, it's useless. In the chat room, only a small number of people had the right to speak, but almost everyone could type. It was lively now. In the language chat box in the chat room, there were all kinds of compliments and comments in the live broadcast. If it was someone else looking at the various languages from all over the world, they would definitely be speechless. Unfortunately, the person sitting here was the best language master in history. Chen Guang could understand everything just by looking at it. All right, everyone, stop praising me. Hurry up and help me build up the statue, okay? Even through the screen, Chen Guang could sense how attractive his piloting skills over the past 3 days were to the people in the chat room through those words. If it was as he expected, the professional technicians in the military should have sorted out a lot of private goods that could be used. But why hasn't there been any movement yet? What is the problem? Lying on the bed, he tilted his head and looked out of the window. His brain was also a mess. He thought about all the things that had happened recently, but he couldn't figure out what the problem was. There was one more thing that bothered him. Ever since this morning, the feeling of unease in his heart hadn't stopped. He thought it was because he had been away for too long and was not used to suddenly returning to school. During the day, he deliberately shifted his attention to other aspects and selectively ignored the strange feeling. But in the dead of night, when he was lying on his bed alone, this feeling emerged from the depths of his mind and became more and more intense. Chen Guang was sure that there were many reasons for this situation. It was very complicated, but there was no doubt that something must have happened, and it would not be a good thing. Maybe it had something to do with the statue not being erected. Or perhaps it had something to do with the strange situation between him and Wen. If not for the Holy Grail's interference, a righteous person like him, Wen would not have been able to turn him into a human-shaped aphrodisiac. She would not have been able to control herself whenever he got close to her. Sigh, our family's big sister cheat is not the same as what is written in web novels. Other people's grandpas were omniscient and omniscient. Once the male lead with the protagonist's halo encountered any problems, the accompanying grandpa could come up with 10,000 solutions in a minute. The male lead only needed to stretch out his little finger and randomly choose one of the 10,000 solutions that looked more pleasing to the eye to make a decision, and that would be it. Or else, it would give the male lead a complete set of easy and pleasant leveling up routes. As long as he happily follows the fixed route and walks step by step, he can become immortal in minutes, unify the world, become a winner in life, and walk to the top. But why does it have to be me? If something happens, our portable grandma will either not know anything or pretend to be dead and not online. Sigh, just thinking about it makes my head explode. At this moment, there was another knock on the bedroom door. It was Enchanting. Swollen chrysanthemum? Are you there? Are you asleep? Chen Guang was not in a good mood at the moment. He slapped his forehead. Don't mess around. Let's talk tomorrow. I'm a little tired now. Unexpectedly, Enchanting did not listen to him and knocked on the door again. It's not like that. I don't know what's going on either. I was lying on the bed just now, and my heart suddenly felt very fast. I'm afraid that my master, Chen Guang, sat up straight on the bed and opened the bedroom door in his pajamas. What's going on? Didn't they leave in the afternoon? Yes. Looking at the time, they should have just gotten off the plane. I also called my master just now. She said that she has just settled down and plans to secretly go to Mount Baral tomorrow morning. Then everything should be normal. What are you afraid of? Enchanting was still frowning. I don't know, but I'm afraid. I'm not joking, really. I'm really scared. Looking at how confident she was, Chen Guang's brows knitted together. He felt that he must have been possessed today, and something seemed to be amiss. Oh right, I forgot to tell you. Xiao Miao Miao and her master went together. But she... Chen Guang raised his eyebrows. What about her? Xiao Miao Miao also said that she doesn't feel at ease. Just now, she was still chatting with me on WeChat. She wanted to persuade Xuelin and Master to change their schedule. As she said that, Enchanting did not care about being reserved. She grabbed Chen Guang's hand and pressed it against her chest. It's true. My heart is really beating very fast. Even with the full bosom between them, Chen Guang's palm still felt as if it was being patted repeatedly. Her heartbeat was really frightening. Sensing the intense vibrations in his palm, Chen Guang's heart seemed to be attracted as well, beating at the same frequency as Su Tao's. A strong sense of crisis fell from the sky and completely enveloped him in an instant. The realm of punishment is about to descend. Savior, please get ready. At this moment, a familiar electronic voice suddenly rang in his heart. The voice was very calm and emotionless, but in that instant, it made his hair stand on end. He finally knew what he had overlooked. Yes. It was the realm of punishment. On the plane, he had used the power of the realm of life when he was in danger. Now it was time to pay the price. The last time, in order to save his mother, he had used the power of destiny just to obtain a perfectly compatible kidney transplant. In the end, he had dragged Wu Tong into the punishment realm. If he had not been stubborn enough to charge forward fearlessly and rescue her from the hands of Shizhou, she would have died a long time ago. At that time, Chen Guang had no experience in fighting against international terrorists. He had almost no ability to protect himself when he was in danger. If he had not had a flash of inspiration to put the grenade thrown by the other party into the Holy Grail and relied on Azure's help to release the explosive power of the grenade, he would not have had a chance of winning. Although it had been a long time, the feeling of walking on the edge of death was still fresh in his mind. Azure once said that using the power of fate would definitely cause a backlash, and the backlash would be stronger each time. The second backlash would be at least 10 times stronger than the first. The first time he used the realm of punishment, he had caused such a huge commotion. Needless to say, the intensity of the second backlash would be far beyond his imagination. He had been too busy for the past 2 days, so he did not expect the realm of punishment to come so quickly. That was why he had subconsciously neglected it. Now, whether he wanted to or not, he had to face reality. After a whole day of preparation, the realm of punishment appeared in front of him in an extremely sudden and natural manner. This was the reason why he had been feeling uneasy the whole day. As for why Enchanting and Wu Miaowan felt the same sense of crisis, Chen Guang soon found out the reason. His hand was still on Enchanting's chest and did not move away. However, as the Heavenly Holy Grail's electronic voice rang out, the invisible yet seemingly substantial power of the Holy Grail surged out from the Heavenly Holy Grail that was placed on the bedside table. Like a wave, it spread out and enveloped the entire room. As the master of the Holy Grail, Chen Guang could sense that the power of the Holy Grail did not stop. Instead, it continued to spread out in all directions at an extremely fast speed. Although the power of the Holy Grail was becoming thinner and thinner as the space it enveloped continued to expand, this mysterious power was like a noodle that could never be pulled apart. No matter how thin or thin it was, it still existed. Until the entire Earth was enveloped by the Holy Grail, until the entire universe, or perhaps the universe in a narrow sense, was also enveloped by the power of the Holy Grail. Chen Guang's consciousness merged with the Holy Grail. In an instant, his consciousness seemed to have been brought to an extremely far-away place by the power of the Holy Grail, allowing him to roam to his heart's content. Although he found it extremely inconceivable and difficult to understand, there was no doubt that the entire universe was enveloped by the power of the Holy Grail. At this moment, everything in this universe was enveloped by the power of the Holy Grail. It was as if a person with 3 spiritual souls and 7 physical souls had been forcefully stuffed in, becoming 3 spiritual souls and 8 physical souls. Everything in the universe had an additional attribute. In the air, beyond Earth, in the vacuum, in the distant Centaurus galaxy, beyond the range of vision of 13.8 billion light-years, the endless void 46 billion light-years away, and even further away, everything was completely enveloped by the power of the Heavenly Holy Grail. Ever since he obtained the Heavenly Holy Grail, this was the first time Chen Guang truly felt how terrifying and powerful the Holy Grail was. The last time he entered the punishment realm, he had a feeling that the real world had also become a realm within a cup for a period of time. However, at that time, the power of the Holy Grail was too thin and could not bear the weight of his consciousness. That was why he had hidden this conjecture in the depths of his heart and could not verify it. It was only today, when he suddenly tried and successfully merged his consciousness into the Holy Grail. Only then did he understand that when the punishment realm was activated, what changed was not what he saw in front of him, nor was it that he was pulled into the realm within a cup created by the Holy Grail. Instead, it was that the entire universe had become a realm within a cup. Even after his consciousness merged into the power of the Holy Grail, he could not truly see. He could only form a perception and judgment in his heart to know whether something in a certain place existed or didn't exist. He did not know exactly how big the universe was. He was also not sure if the universe had a boundary. He was also unable to see what existed beyond the boundary. However, from the feedback from the heavenly Holy Grail, he knew that the entire universe had become a realm within a cup. This was because time had come to a standstill at this moment. In a sense, in the vast universe, all the existences of matter or antimatter were connected to each other. To put it simply, it could be said to be the gravitational force. Assuming that the universe had a boundary, a speck of dust on the leftmost edge of the universe and a speck of dust on the rightmost edge that was billions of light years away from it would still have a gravitational force. It was just that the magnitude of this force was so small that it could not be expressed using mathematics. However, no one could deny its objective existence. In that case, if one wanted to completely stop time in a certain small area, but the entire universe was eternally moving, the so-called butterfly effect could be magnified to the entire universe. Even if it was only a ping-pong ball that had stopped completely on Earth, the infinitely magnified butterfly effect would cause the eternally moving universe to be completely torn apart. Therefore, there was only one way to achieve a complete standstill in time or to slow down time. That was to completely freeze or slow down the entire universe. The last time, when Qin Guang had appeared in court to judge Wang Ren and Su Lizheng, the heavenly Holy Grail had risen from the spirit sky realm to the one-line sky realm. At that time, a similar situation had occurred. However, at that time, Qin Guang had not been able to integrate his consciousness into the power of the Holy Grail, so he could not sense so much. At that time, time had not been completely stopped. It was as if someone had pressed the slow button, and the flow of time had become extremely slow. However, this time, it was for real. For the second realm of punishment, the heavenly Holy Grail had frozen the entire universe, causing trouble. Must the second realm of punishment cause such a huge ruckus? Also, I don't even have the ability to get you to give me some small favors. If I want to get muscle training, I have to save up my own faith. Every time the realm in the cup was activated, I had to wait for Lazuli to recover her divine power and for the heavenly Holy Grail to recover its power. Why is it that when it's time to punish me, you have to make such a huge ruckus? You're my family's golden finger. Are you trying to say that you've been saving up your power all your life to prepare a big move? Not to help me, but to mess with me? King retard. Boss, can I return the goods? Please give me a more conventional cheat, I can't take it anymore. Focusing on tricking me for 20 years. My heart hurts so much that I can't breathe. Forget it, I'll pinch it to my heart's content before I die. Anyway, time has stopped. Little Enchanting doesn't know anything. The elasticity of this steamed bun is pretty good. My life has been worth it. Chapter 772. However, when he pinched Enchanting, he noticed that the power of the Holy Grail lingering around her body was much denser than in the doorframe at the same distance from him. Perhaps the reason why Enchanting and Wu Miaowan both felt an inexplicable sense of danger at the same time was because the two Lolas had stayed with him for too long, and they had been contaminated with a lot of the Holy Grail's power. Therefore, when their closest kin, who was also their master, was dragged into the punishment realm, they both felt a strong sense of danger at the same time. Especially Wu Miaowan, who was also dragged into it. As for the others, they didn't feel anything at all, perhaps because they didn't have much contact with Qin Guang. Perhaps Xue Lin should be able to sense this, but he had been in a precarious situation for a long time recently. This time, he was going out to carry out an important mission, so it was not strange for him to feel a sense of urgency and depression. He thought that he was being vigilant, but he didn't know that it was precisely because of his vigilance as a soldier that the entire task force was in danger. However, he couldn't be blamed for this, because this matter was far beyond his understanding and imagination. Although Shui Lin was Qin Guang's only disciple, he was first and foremost a mortal. At most, he was just a mortal who was slightly more powerful than ordinary people. The punishment realm will descend in 1 minute. Countdown begins. 60. 59. 58. Since when was there such a precise countdown before entering the Holy Grail realm? This was unprecedented, and Qin Guang panicked. How cruel must the punishment realm be for the Holy Grail to be so human-like as to give him a countdown? He hurriedly rushed to the bedside table, picked up the cup, and immersed his consciousness into the Holy Grail. The situation was urgent, and he had to ask Azure for 2 silk sachets before he officially started work, just in case. When he entered Cloud City, Azure had indeed come out from the leaves of the deer cry fruit. She was sitting under the deer cry fruit with a frown, and no one knew what she was thinking. Qin Guang went up to her. Lord Azure, Azure waved her hand. All right, you don't need to say anything else. When you call me Lord, the next sentence you usually say is help me. All right, you really know me. This time, I'm really going to explode on the spot. On account of the fact that we have been together for so long, on account of the fact that I am your sweet little cotton-padded jacket, on account of the fact that in order to become stronger and one day free you from the Holy Grail, I have always been racking my brains and never giving up. Please help me. Liuli turned her head and silently looked at this ungrateful wretch. She had long seen through this fellow's nature. When he needed you, his attitude was very kind, as if he wanted to hold her in his hands like a treasure. But when he didn't need you, his tail would rise to the sky at any moment. This kind of person, to put it nicely, was heartless, and at worst, he was an ingrate. All right, Liuli knew that this was Qin Guang's personality. Even if he was grateful in his heart, he wouldn't let you please him verbally. If I didn't know what you were thinking in your heart, I would have been angered to death 17 or 18 times. Sigh, I told you before that this power of destiny cannot be used easily. Once you use it, you have to be mentally prepared to pay the price. You tried it once last time, and I also told you that the punishment you will face the second time will be 10 times stronger. Why are you so good at courting death? Why didn't you listen? You still have to court death yourself, sigh. Liuli sighed, looking as if she was mourning his misfortune and angry at his lack of ambition. Qin Guang spread his hands. You're blaming me? I was so unlucky to encounter that kind of thing on the plane. I couldn't do anything about it. All right, since things have already come to this, let's do something practical. Actually, Qin Guang felt sorry for himself. Don't just focus on lecturing me. Back then, wasn't it because you pretended to be dead and didn't move? I had no choice but to use the power of destiny. Liuli chuckled. All right, I'll give you the 4-word mantra. When you are in danger, just recite these 4-word mantra and you will definitely be able to turn misfortune into fortune. Qin Guang was overjoyed. Really? Hurry up and speak. Liuli took a deep breath and chuckled. These 4 words are, pray for your own good fortune. F***CKU. Lu Minghua, who had been eavesdropping on the conversation between the two of them, couldn't help but laugh out loud. Qin Guang, Sister Liuli really didn't lie to you. In the ordinary world within the cup, we can still protect you a little, but in this world of punishment, Sister Liuli and I really don't have any methods. Qin Guang shouted, such a despairing thing, don't say it so lightly. There are only 10 seconds left, quickly tell me what this unlucky world of punishment is like. Liuli spread out her hands again. Next, I'm going to give you the 3-word mantra. What? I don't know. Oh my God, you. I can't do it anymore, my heart feels so uncomfortable. If it wasn't for his big heart, Qin Guang felt that sooner or later, he would be angered to death by Liuli. Unfortunately, he didn't have any chance to complain about the immorality of Lioli and Lu Mingwa. The countdown in the depths of his mind finally reached the final 3, 2, 1, and then the electronic voice sounded again. The fusion of the real world is complete. The world of punishment is activated. It's coming, it's coming. Chen Guang's consciousness was uncontrollably pulled out of the world within the cup, and in a flash, he returned to the real world. Enchanting had already woken up, and time began to flow again. She was a little confused and didn't know what happened. As if she was just stunned for a moment, Chen Guang ran to the bedside table. What's wrong? Did I lose my memory? Enchanting scratched her head and said. Chen Guang shook his head and didn't have the mood to talk. Instead, he immersed his mind in the Holy Grail in his hands. Where's the activation? It's moving. What should I do now? Where's the mission? Also, what the hell is the fusion of the real world? Why don't I know about the real world? It sounds very high-end, but I don't have any impression of it. Is there anything special about the fusion? What did the real world fuse with? What's the next step? What should I do now? Don't try to scare me, okay? Chen Guang looked around in a daze. What he saw was still the same as before, but in his perception, he clearly felt that everything in the world that he saw was more mysterious and difficult to understand than before. He walked to the window, opened the curtains, and looked at the bright moon hanging in the sky. The bright moonlight sprinkled on the ground like snow. The clouds, the moon above the clouds, the light on the ground, everything looked normal to the naked eye, but in his heart, he felt that it had changed, the whole world had changed. From the looks of it, the so-called fusion of the real world probably referred to the whole world becoming the world in the cup. Although he didn't know what changes had happened in the Holy Grail, otherwise it wouldn't have reminded him. The heavenly Holy Grail was emotionless and had no consciousness, but it definitely wouldn't say any nonsense just to tease him. Don't worry about those small things. You didn't lose your memory, come and take a look. Chen Guang called Enchanting, who was clueless, to the window. Enchanting looked out. What? Didn't you notice anything different? Enchanting shook her head. Nothing different, right? Is there a problem? Enchanting couldn't see anything. All right then. Shrugging his shoulders, Chen Guang responded. Oh right, why am I in your room? Enchanting suddenly realized something and looked at him with a guarded expression. Huh? You've forgotten about it? Enchanting was completely confused. What did you forget? Chen Guang touched his forehead. Forget it, I shouldn't have counted on you. At this moment, the heavenly Holy Grail finally sent another message. The World of Punishment mission announced. Chen Guang was relieved. It's here, it's here. It's finally here. If there was a mission, there would be a goal. Otherwise, it would be too unsettling to stay in the punishment realm that was fused with the real world, which was also in the real world, blindly. Main mission, stay alive. F***CK. For a moment, Chen Guang couldn't hold it back and cursed. Your mission description is so simple and straightforward. I really have to thank your whole family. Enchanting looked at him blankly. What's the matter? Why are you scolding me for no reason? Don't be angry. Even if you want to do something with me, I won't blame you for drugging me and making me unconscious. But I was just asking you, you actually scolded me. Chen Guang looked back at her and laughed. You've forgotten. I don't blame you, but now is really not the time to joke with you. Someone is going to die, the electronic voice reminded again. If the main mission fails, the Redeemer will die. Chen Guang silently covered his heart. In my humble opinion, you really don't need to remind me again. Of course, I will try my best to stay alive. Main mission 2, destroy the headquarters of the extremist organization shattered within 48 hours. If the main mission 2 fails, the Redeemer will still die. F***CK. Since staying alive is the main mission, shouldn't the other missions be side missions? Why is it the second main mission? And if I fail, I will still die. Are you crazy? Alright, forget it. Anyway, it's the world of punishment with 10 times the difficulty. I can accept it if it's more brutal. I had sent out so many people. Enchanting and Wu Miaowan's masters were leading the team, and Shui Lin, who had been suppressing Shattered the World for the past few days, was also leading the team of 50 elites. I had even shamelessly borrowed some of the savage new equipment that I had seen during the individual military exercise from the old men and the bald-headed uncle. The strength of the task force was absolutely invincible. If there's no other way, I'll go to the Wujing military region and find a fighter jet to fly directly to Mount Baylor. I'll personally oversee it. A mere world of destruction. Although they claimed to be a super strong assassin organization, they were forced to flee like rats by a little brother of mine. They had no choice but to place their hopes on causing trouble within the country. Unfortunately for them, they ran into me, the one who planned everything and won every battle. This means that although their names are cool, they're actually not that scary. Now, we have 2 inner force experts, 50 elite warriors, and top-notch combat weapons developed by the entire nation of China. Not to mention that our technological level is much higher than yours, it's the same as 3 versus 1, and we're 60 people ahead of you. I'll directly flatten the floor. What's this called again? That's right, Flying Dragon Riding Face. A 3-attack Flying Dragon with 200 people against a mere 100 people of Shattered. Face A1. What's the use of hiding in Mount Baylor? Do you think your hiding place is undetectable? The invincible divine detective Chen Luoka has long heard your hiding place clearly. What's this called again? Right, this is a force field. What's the use of isolation? Therefore, destroying the world of destruction within 48 hours was not a problem at all. It's a sure win, easy, casual win. Wait a minute, this flag seems very familiar. Suddenly, the electronic voice from the Holy Grail sounded again. Main Mission 3, rescue 55 hostages within 48 hours. Current number of rescued, 0. When the success rate of rescuing hostages is less than 60%, the mission will fail. If the mission fails, the rescuer will die. Chen Guang leaned against the wall and looked at the bright moon outside the window. Facing this situation, what can I say? Seriously, there are some things that I can't randomly raise flags for myself. I swear, I'll remove the words Flying Dragon Riding Face from my Xinhua dictionary. I really don't want to talk about poison anymore. This isn't poison, this is an illness, an incurable illness. Mission countdown, remaining time, 27 hours 53 minutes 19 seconds. Chen Guang cursed again, omitting 3,000 words below. Where's the promised 48 hours? Lioli silently said, counting from 8 a.m. yesterday, it's already been a little over 20 hours. Playing with me. You're completely playing with me. Chen Guang didn't even have the strength to lean against the wall. May I ask if it's a demon? I want to call the police, call the police. Chief. My master. At this moment, Enchanting's mind finally cleared up. She also remembered why she appeared here. Chen Guang covered her mouth. All right, no need to say more. I understand, I'll go and rescue them now. I surrender. This time, Lioli didn't persuade him to be a coward. Because if the mission fails, he will die. He didn't notice that among the 55 hostages calculated by the Holy Grail, there was one more than the 54 people he sent out. Chapter 773. Save them? Enchanting didn't expect Chen Guang to have such a big reaction. She just felt uneasy. It was a little like the folk saying that the left eyelid twitching is a blessing and the right eyelid twitching is a curse. However, she didn't expect the situation to be so serious that they had to save them. Moreover, with her and Chen Guang's abilities, it would be useless even if they rushed over now. Her master and Wu Miaowan's master were famous skin strength experts. Their skills were much stronger than bone strength martial artists like her and Wu Miaowan. However, Chen Guang nodded. That's right. Save them. Xian Qin still thought he was joking. But how are we going to go? They're overseas now. Chen Guang shrugged. It's not how we're going, it's me. Wait, it sounds like you want to go too. Xian Qin glared. Of course, that's my master. He's not your master. Chen Guang patted her shoulder. Your master will be happy that you can think that way. However, forget it. You can't meddle in this. Why can't I meddle? Xian Qin said stubbornly. How could Chen Guang tell her that her master and his group were all involved in the punishment realm? Don't underestimate the punishment realm of the old man's heavenly holy grail. I'm trembling with fear just thinking about what I'm going to face now. 10 times the strength, the real world and the real world were completely integrated. Chen Guang felt that it wouldn't be strange even if there was a Godzilla monster waiting for him there. Only he, the owner of the Holy Grail, could survive such a terrifying situation. As for the others, they should just forget about it. Shut up. The adults are doing things. Go play somewhere else. Waving his hand, Chen Guang strode out of his house. At the same time, he was pondering in his heart. It's one thing for Xian Qin to take the risk with him, but if it's possible, he should borrow some troops from the old man or the Baldy. Just as this thought emerged in his mind, the heavenly Holy Grail gave him a hint. Attention, Redeemer. You are forbidden from seeking external help. Otherwise, the mission will fail and you will die immediately. Can't you be more reasonable? Can't I just think about it in my heart? Forget it, it seems like I really can't do it. I admit defeat. Ever since he obtained the Holy Grail and was forcefully tied to the ship, he had enjoyed a lot of benefits, and the scams he had done weren't that bad either. He really didn't know what was going on. After being cheated so many times, his nerves had become big and his ability to withstand pressure was very strong. If it was in the past, his tears would really flow. But now, everything seemed to be very natural and natural. I've been tricked so many times that I'm numb to it. There's something wrong with my mind. Sigh, there's no need for me to treat it. That's it. If I can't rely on external forces, shouldn't they at least give me some help? Right now, I had trained my muscles to 70%, but there were still 30% of my weaknesses. I didn't know any special agent skills or firearms. If I had a gun in my hand, it would probably take me half a day to find the safety. The strength of my fists and kicks wasn't a problem. I could kill gods and Buddhas if I met gods and Buddhas. However, my opponents wouldn't honestly compete with me in terms of strength. They could turn me into a hornet's nest at any moment. In addition, the combat techniques that Chen Guang had mastered were mostly unorthodox hand-to-hand combat techniques that he had learned in the Sea of Transient. There weren't any well-formed routines, and he wasn't like an inner force martial artist who could channel his inner force into his muscles. He also wasn't like a special agent who had highly efficient killing methods. He wasn't a soldier king, nor was he a martial arts expert. He was just a great pirate who had drifted on the sea for a few years and knew how to trade injuries for injuries. It wouldn't be a problem for him to act cool and scare one or two opponents or professional boxers. Or it could be the same as when he saved Sun Xiaoxuan back then. He could make use of his information advantage and charge out from an unexpected place at lightning speed. He could rely on his overwhelming strength to kill his opponent instantly. He was good at acting cool, but he wasn't good at risking his life. If he didn't show his trump card, he would feel a little anxious. However, what awaited him was the lair of the shattered world. God knew how many assassins there were in that place. In the end, he didn't get the trump card he wanted. The heavenly Holy Grail in his backpack didn't give him any notifications even when he boarded the military transport plane from Beijing to Mount Baylor. It only gave him a mechanical countdown every half an hour. It was like a death knell telling him that he didn't have much time left to live. Furthermore, he couldn't get rid of Enchanting. It wasn't that he was stubborn enough to drag Enchanting into danger. It was just that the little girl's stubbornness was acting up. She wouldn't let him go out without her. What was worse was that he was in the punishment realm. His holy grail had taken over this world. He was the child of destiny. No, he was the abandoned child of destiny. Yet, he couldn't defeat her. It was really sad. However, although the heavenly holy grail forbade him from asking for help from others, it didn't stop Enchanting from joining it. It was obvious that Enchanting had been calculated to be his help from the very beginning. In terms of online games, Enchanting was his teammate. Now, the two of them were going to form a party to clear a dungeon. In addition, Uncle Jiang, who was in charge of communicating with him, was quite worried when he suddenly received a request to send him overseas in a military transport plane. However, Chen Guang didn't tell him the truth. He only told him that as the director of the Guangdong General Administration, this was his first time sending a task force overseas for a big operation. He wouldn't feel at ease if he didn't personally oversee the operation. Director Chen, why don't we land at an airport near our destination? We don't have to parachute, do we? The instructor of the transport plane sat next to Chen Guang, feeling wronged. Oh, right. The captain was sitting on the other side, holding a pen and paper with a sincere expression. He wrote down every step Chen Guang took. Before they took off, the captain, who had more than 10,000 hours of flying experience, was overshadowed by Chen Guang. Chen Guang had a good reason. He was flying better than him. He was in a hurry, so he had to fly faster. The captain didn't quite understand. Didn't a normal pilot fly the plane at the same speed? Could it be that Chen Guang could race like a car? But forget it. Chen Guang was the director of the Guangdong General Administration, and he was also known as the best pilot. Not to mention, the captain also listened to the lessons in the chat room for the last 2 days. He admired Chen Guang from the bottom of his heart. At this moment, it was 5 a.m. Enchanting was also a little tired and was trying to catch up on her sleep. On the other hand, Chen Guang didn't feel tired at all. On the contrary, he was full of energy. This was probably the first benefit of being the savior. His time seemed to have been reset, and every second was filled with energy. No. If we land at the airport and then find a car, I'm afraid we won't make it. Chen Guang decisively rejected the instructor's suggestion. The instructor was helpless to see him being unreasonable and stubborn, but you don't have any experience in parachuting. I'm worried that you, Chen Guang said, before I successfully landed DL 199333, I didn't have any experience in flying a plane. It's just a parachute. It's not worth mentioning. Isn't it just opening the parachute in the air? I can't feign in the state of weightlessness, right? But, no buts. I'm your superior. I have the final say. This is an order. Hurry up and prepare a parachute for me. Being one rank higher was useful. In the distant Yanjing, baldy old Jiang was helpless when he heard Chen Guang was being unreasonable and stubborn. The back of his head hurt for a while. In order to use this plane in an emergency, it was not as simple as driving it out of the airport. They also had to urgently communicate with neighboring countries. At the same time, they had to temporarily adjust the domestic civil aviation route planning to prevent flight route conflicts in the air. Although the flying altitude of military aircraft was not as high as civil aviation, they couldn't rule out the situation of colliding with the aircraft taking off. It was just a simple takeoff, but it affected the whole situation. The price paid was not simple. Halfway through the flight, Enchanting suddenly screamed and woke up. She stared at Chen Guang with her eyes wide open. Chen Guang, who had turned on autopilot, stretched and looked back. He forced himself to calm down. Why are you so surprised? Enchanting's face was pale, and her eyes were hollow. I just had a dream. I dreamed that my master, what's wrong? Don't scare me. Chen Guang's heart, which he had tried so hard to calm down, was suddenly in his throat. Master forgot to bring a change of clothes. Damn it. Go to sleep. I'll beat you up if you get up again. Chen Guang's body stiffened. He was so angry that he almost died. He couldn't be bothered with Xian Qin anymore. He turned to the captain beside him and said, "Help me get a cup of herbal tea. I need to drink it to calm down." Damn it. Director Chen cursed and drank a cup of herbal tea before speeding up. Be reasonable. You don't have to remember such things. This has nothing to do with piloting skills. He turned to look at the gray sky. It was past 6 in the morning. Although the sun had yet to rise, the sky was gradually turning white. At that moment, Lord Guang still didn't know what was waiting for him. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.